Hey everyone, Charlie Morgan here, and welcome to Total Niche Immersion. So at this point in the training, you should have picked your niche and you should know what your niche is. But now you might be wondering, well, what problem am I going to solve for them? And also you might know nothing about your niche. You might have some understanding of it, but you could also have no understanding of it. And so what we're going to be doing in this video is I'm going to unveil a strategy that I've used in the past, that I've created myself, that will help you completely immerse yourself in the world of your niche. And this is going to help you understand your niche probably better than they understand themselves. I'm going to show you how to find a painful problem to solve and validate that that problem is the right problem to pick and everything. But I'm also going to show you how to construct an avatar and how to really get to grips with this thing. Now, even if you already know your niche, and even if you already understand your niche, I'd still recommend you do this video, and I'd still recommend that you follow the instructions in this video, because you can never understand your niche well enough. I've been doing this for 8 years now with my niche, and I still learn new things about them every week, every month. I'm learning something new, something's unfolding, and I'm able to use that information to bolster my business and make more money. And so if you think you know everything you need to know about your niche, then you've kind of failed before you've even started, because you never know everything about your niche because it's always changing and evolving. So let's get into it. So we're going to go through Born from Niche, Avatars, 28 Buckets, the Imperium Academy Avatar, Ongoing Cycle, Immersion Strategy, Validating Problem and Solution, and Deciding Solution. And so the objective of this video is to help you understand your niche, basically, and also pick what problem you're going to solve, which is quite exciting because now that we've picked the niche and we've done a little bit of work, this is where I'm going to give you some exercises and some sort of challenges here. And this is where we're really going to be getting to work. So this is sort of like a proper, okay, we're actually building the business now, which is very exciting. So without further ado, let's jump in. So welcome to Total Niche Immersion. Here we're going to totally nail your avatar, problem and solution, which obviously contribute to your core foundations. Now this resource will give you a solid process to help you properly understand your niche on a deep level and extrapolate a problem from them, and from that understanding that will be worthy of building a consulting business on top of it. You must get this right, so pay attention. If you skip, the niche research thing is kind of boring and it doesn't sound that shiny or exciting. I know what you're thinking, it's just a bit of research, I don't care. But honestly, I cannot overstate the importance of this. You must get this right. You must find a good problem and a good solution. And the only way we're going to do that is if we really, really dig in and try and understand this thing. So born from niche. So your business is born from your niche. Your niche essentially gives birth to all the foundations in your business. Your offer that you have, the result you offer, the solution you have, the problem you have, all of these things are upstream from the selection of your niche. And the quality of your foundations, which determines the quality of your business and therefore the quality of your entire future, pretty much, is hinged upon your niche. And so it's imperative that you get it and you understand it, because the better you understand it, the better you can adapt yourself and your business to it. And truth is, like in nature, for example, the species that survive are the ones that fit the niche the best in any given environment. And so the species that understands that niche the best is able to adapt its body and its behaviors and everything about itself to that niche. And it's only through understanding the niche that adaptation can manifest. And so businesses don't start because of a good idea. They start because a market has a need, want, or desire that can be capitalized on. So we don't just, you should be realizing this by now, we don't just come up with ideas in the shower. And we're like, yeah, a light bulb moment, I'm going to go, eureka, I'm going to go and start this business. No, anyone who's ever done this, who's had this brainwave of an idea, it's only worked because the market has had a need, want, or desire that idea facilitates. It is a terrible idea to start with an idea, because the only reason an idea works is if it fits what the market needs, wants, or desires. And so this is why I'm starting you with the niche, so we can reverse engineer your entire business and success based off the one thing that really matters, which is the niche. So because of this, it's really dangerous to assume you know what your niche wants or needs. So maybe you understand your niche a little bit. Maybe you've done some calls with people in your niche before, or maybe you've been a member of your niche before. But even if that's the case, it's still really dangerous to assume you know everything. It's dangerous to assume you know what their biggest problem is. So maybe you're like, oh, I want to work with this niche, these business owners, right? or this person or this type of person. I know what their problem is. It's definitely going to be this. Like, no, you do not come into this. Like, if any scientist conducting research that has, like, in science, this is basically called, what is this called? This is called like a bias, right? So if a scientist starts a study and they start research with a goal in mind, which is basically to prove that they are right, then the study becomes tainted and it becomes completely inaccurate. And so what I don't want to see you guys doing is coming into this research thinking you already know the niche or thinking you already know the problem that you're going to solve, and then just seeking to confirm what you already believe to be true. Because in business, we can either be objectively accurate and make a lot of money, or we can be subjectively right. And so would you rather be rich or would you rather be right? You know, maybe it is the case that the problem that you think you're going to solve is the problem that you are going to solve after some research. But the worst thing you can do is taint all of your research with this bias you have around what you think is going to happen. So remove any biases, remove any ideas of what you think you already know. Just trust me, the only way to understand something truly is to properly, objectively research it. And it's also dangerous to blindly copy other business foundations. So maybe you see competitors in your niche, and maybe you see businesses in your niche solving a specific problem, and you think that's the problem that you're going to solve. Well, all of those businesses are just copycats of the other businesses that look like them. It's kind of like an echo chamber. Maybe that will be your business model. Maybe that makes sense. But you need to validate your problem. You need to validate your niche. So no biases. You must learn to perform your own critical analysis on your niche. So critical basically means just like finding the truth. And so it's difficult to find the truth if you're already looking for a lie. So don't look for a lie. Don't look for anything. Just look for what's there. Now, your understanding of your niche is the most important thing to your business success. And I know that this sounds trivial, and probably you're thinking this isn't true. Like, how can my understanding of the people I help be the main thing? Well, anyone that's been in business for any amount of time will tell you that's true, but since you're a beginner, it might not make sense. And this is because everything in your business revolves around your niche. So think about this. The better you understand your niche, like the better your funnels, the better your ads, the better your sales scripts, the better content, the better products, the better copy. You might be thinking, well, why? Surely it's just about strategy. Like, surely what makes a good funnel is just a good funnel. Well, let me ask you this question. How do you know what funnel to make? How do you know what to say in your ads? How do you know what questions to put in your sales scripts? How do you know what copy to write for your emails or for your DMs? How do you know what content to produce? How do you know what products to make, etc., etc.? You know, everything is built around the niche. So if someone came to me with a funnel and said, hey, Charlie, is this a good funnel or not? I'd say, I don't know, because I'm not a member of your niche. Or if someone came and said, hey, Charlie, I want to make this video for my YouTube channel, like I'm in the barber niche and I want to make this video. Is it a good video? I'm like, I don't know. I'm not a barber. Like, anything you produce in your business comes from the niche. And what that means is the quality of your production of all of the assets in your business, marketing assets, onboarding assets, product assets, anything you build ever comes out of your niche and your market. And so you have to understand it. You know, like, for example, all of my YouTube videos start with an idea of what would my niche want to see. And this program, this product, right? Like, how do I know what to put in this program? There's like, you know, if I compiled all of my knowledge about the world and business and everything together, like, I could make this thing like, I mean, literally Easy Grow, for example, like 400 videos long, because it solves a more complex issue of scale and client acquisition. But like, how do I know what you need? Like, how do I know what to put in this program? Like, surely I could just like dump my entire brain into a PDF and that would help. Well, no. You know, like, how do I know to make a video on niche research? Well, it's because I understand that you need to do it. I understand that you need to do it, if that makes sense. Like, you've picked your niche, and so the next step for you is to understand your niche. And because I understand that about you, I can include that in the program. And so this program is built with my understanding of what you need, not what I want to put in. So, like, for example, I'm not going to be covering like how to run, like right now, for example, in my company, I spend $200,000 a month on ads, like $2 to $3 million a year on ads. And that number is probably going to increase to 300, 400 in the near future. And so I'm spending, you know, 2-3 million on ads. I could make a video in this program on like how to run ads at that level. But you don't even make that a year yet. You don't even make that in your lifetime just yet. So there's no point in me putting in really advanced knowledge for beginners. And so I need to understand you and what you need. And this is the danger with products, is putting in what you want to put in, not what they need. Like everything comes from the niche. And EasyGrow as well. EasyGrow is built to include client acquisition information that the market lacks. And so when I was building EasyGrow and I was making acquisition genesis and the mindset training there and the outbound systems and the inbound systems and the paid systems, like they are the best systems in the world for client acquisition. Like we've got 2,000 verified case studies for this damn thing. And like people, it really works, like really well. And the only reason that EasyGrow gets these insane results, and the only reason our Trustpilot is what it is, and our client interviews are what they are, is because, and the reason everyone buys the mastermind afterwards, is because it's built to spec. It's built to the person who wants to buy it. Okay? So if you come into this program and you get a couple of clients, I have built EasyGrow to perfectly facilitate the jump from a couple of clients or a couple of $1,000s to like 100K a month, right? And that requires a very specific understanding of you and what you need. And so if you want to produce effective funnels, products, ads, scripts, copy, content, then you have to base it around your niche. So all of these shiny objects, all of these things that you think are really important, they only work if you understand your niche. Everything hinges on how well you know your niche. So let's get to know them. And here's a quote from Eugene Schwartz, who is one of the sort of founding fathers of modern copywriting, modern advertising. You know, if you've seen the show Mad Men, like those copywriters in like the 80s or 60s or whatever it is, kind of based off of these guys, right? David Ogilvy, Eugene Schwartz. But anyway, this summarizes it perfectly. Let's get to the heart of the matter. The power, the force, the overwhelming urge to own that makes advertising work comes from the market itself and not the copy. Copy cannot create desire for a product. It can only take the hopes, dreams, fears, and desires that already exist in the hearts of millions of people and focus those already existing desires onto a particular product. This is the copywriter's task. Not to create this mass desire, but to channel and direct it. And so anytime we're building anything in our business, for marketing, for advertising, for sales, for the team, for the product, it's always about channeling what is inside of the customer, okay? It's not about like writing. Like good copy is only good copy if it applies to your niche. Doesn't matter what strategies. You can have the best copywriting strategies in the world. You can have the best. You can be the best YouTuber in the world. You can make the best YouTube videos with the best quality production and the best scripts. But if it doesn't suit your niche, then it doesn't work. Everyone is so concerned with how to write the best copy and make the best content, but they're not concerned with understanding the very party of people that make it possible. So I hope that makes sense. Let's get into it. So avatars. Now, I'm not talking about the movies. If you don't know what the word avatar means, I'm going to explain it. So an avatar is, in essence, a written profile of the average person in your niche. And so what we can do, if we understand the niche really well, is we can create what's called an avatar. An avatar is basically like a profile that simply defines the average human being in your niche. And if you understand the average human being in your niche, then typically you can understand all of the people in your niche. So by understanding one, we can understand many. Now, don't get me wrong. You're not just going out and talking to one person in your niche and then assuming that that person represents your entire niche. Quite the opposite. We need to talk to a lot of people. But once you've spoken to a lot of people, and once you've understood a lot of people in your niche, and you've really done some research, and you've been where they are, and you've consumed the content they consume, and you've spoken to them and asked them questions, and done some sales calls and got some results with them, then you can really start to make generalizations about an entire group, right? And so, like, for example, avatars have a lot of different facets, and a facet is basically like pieces, right? So for example, if I was making an avatar of the average British person, then it would be, I could put in there, likes tea, likes to drink cups of tea, or likes to eat full English breakfasts, or enjoys Sunday league football, Like if I was making an avatar about a middle-aged man in the United Kingdom who's got 3 kids, then I would say he's probably got a mortgage and You know, he probably supports a football team, and he probably likes eating dry roasted peanuts and drinking Guinness. You know, like it's when you it's basically a stereotype. Really, that's what we're trying to do, is create these stereotypes. And it might be the case that in the UK, that not every middle-aged man likes dry roasted peanuts and drinking Guinness, but if 80% of them do, then we can build a business off of that, right? So this is because, by understanding one, we can understand many. And this is because people in niches are similar. So if you take 30,000 people who are in the same niche and put them in the same room, you're going to find a lot of similarities and patterns. So I'm not talking necessarily about the physical appearance, although sometimes that actually might be true, you know. What I am talking about is their qualities and characteristics. And so your avatar is going to be developed and built by talking to people in your niche and researching them. So we're not just going to create an avatar out of thin air and be like, oh yeah, I think it's like this, or I'd assume that these people are like this. Or you're going to watch one YouTube video or an interview and then just create it. No. You're going to create a Google Doc and start researching, and then you're going to note down everything you observe, and that's how we're going to create this avatar. Now, you want to imagine that you are a naturalist. So a naturalist is someone that observes nature, basically, like Charles Darwin, for example. So imagine you're observing something like a species of butterfly. Well, if you went to an island and you started seeing these butterflies flying around, then you'd write everything down about the butterfly. So what color are they? What size? What's their mating ritual? What's the length of their antennae? I think butterflies have antennae, but whatever. How fast do they fly? What's their habitat? How long are their legs? What are their behavioral patterns? How long do they sleep? What's their diet? What do they do to defend themselves from predators? What territorial displays do they have? You would note down everything about these butterflies. And then what you could do is you could publish in a journal, hey, like this is what these butterflies are like. Like this is the nature of this butterfly. This is just how it is. And by making these observations, you can then, you know, generalize, okay, well, if we have this species of butterfly, then it's probably going to have all these things. And then that way, if you're dealing with the butterfly in the future, then you know what to do. So like if you know that it has a certain territorial display, then if you want to, you know, I don't know, if you wanted to like manage the species and introduce a new butterfly to mitigate the species size, then you can do it when it's doing a territorial display that does something. But you know what I mean. You can start to, you know, actually, if you understand a species, then you can start to play around with it and, you know, have some not psychopathic fun, but, you know, you can have some fun with predicting its behavior and stuff. Now, don't worry, you're not obviously going to be observing your niche's mating rituals, but you get the point, right? You know, you get the point. So how do you build an avatar? Well, you go out and you talk to your niche. And in order to build an avatar and really understand this thing, you need to totally absorb yourself in their life and completely obsess over them. And there's 28 buckets. So I've spent the last 8 years building my avatar for my company. And I've really got 2 avatars, right? So the first avatar, and you're probably only going to have one, but the reason I've got 2 is because I've got 2 products now, right? The first avatar I have is obviously the Imperium Academy avatar, which is you, which is a beginner who has no idea how business works and wants to start a business and basically, you know, go from 0 to something, right? And then the second avatar I have is a business owner in the agency, coaching, or consulting space who's already got clients, but who wants to really scale up and get more. And so I've got kind of the same thing, but 2 avatars. And so over the last few years, I've really worked on my avatars, and I've come up with a pretty smart, you know, way of creating these avatars, I think, even if I do so myself. And so what I've done is I've defined 28 buckets of life. And so in the same way that if you were observing a butterfly or a species or any animal, you'd probably create like a list of things that you want to understand about that animal. And so you'd want to know what color. You'd want to know how long does it sleep for? And like, you know, what other species does it interact with? And what noises does it make, etc. If you wanted to understand the nature of something, you'd make a list of things you want to understand about it. And so what I've done is I've defined what I call 28 buckets of life. And these are essentially categories of observation that make the avatar creation process a lot easier. And so what I did a while ago is on my whiteboard, I was like, if I really want to understand someone, what's everything that I need to understand about them that, if understood, paints a really damn clear picture of them? And there might be a couple of things that are missing here, but this covers most of it. And so if you really want to understand someone, you know, if you ask yourself, like, what does it mean to to get someone, like as in like understand them. If you've got a really close friend and you're like, I understand this person really well. It's like, well, why? What is understanding? Well, understanding is basically just knowing these things about them. And so what trauma do they have? What obstacles and problems do they face? How old are they? What doubts do they have in life? What are their goals and dreams? What are their fears? What insecurities do they have? What vices and addictions? What do they think about? What belief systems do they have? How do they identify in the world? What emotional patterns do they show? What do they resent? Who do they look up to? What do they feel guilty and shameful about? What media do they consume? What platforms are they on? What routines and habits do they develop? What's their family and relationships like, with their friends? What purchases do they make? How do they take care of their health? What's their health like? What traits do they have? What values do they have? What education do they have? What social life do they have? What hobbies? What work experience? What finances? If you understand these about someone, then you know them, right? Because this is really what I was thinking. I was like, how the hell do I know if I know someone? It's like, well, if I can just list all of these things about them, I'm probably pretty damn close. And so if you understood all of this about a person in a ton of detail, you'd know pretty much everything there is to know about them. So think about your best friend. Think about your brother, your father. Think about someone really close to you that you know, the person that you just know best. Not yourself, right? But think about somebody else. Somebody that you just, right now in your mind, who do you know really, really, really well? Well, you could answer every single one of these categories in excruciating detail. So if you've got a best friend or a sister or a brother or someone you grew up with or, a family member, you'll know what trauma they have. You'll know what belief systems they have. You'll know what they think about and talk about. You'll know what their social life is like. You'll know how they take care of their health. You'll know what habits they have. You'll know what their financial situation is, right? Now, think about this, right? If you were marketing to this person, you would know exactly what to put in front of them to get them to take action and buy. If you were selling to them, it would be easy. Think about that person that you know really well. This is my point. Now, if you know someone that well, now you know what product they would want. What problems do they have? What solutions do they need? What would get them to click? What's going to get them to buy? What's going to make them happy? What's going to make them sad? What's going to make them angry? What's going to make them desire? What's going to make them dream? What's going to make them want to hit a goal? If you know everything about someone, then you know exactly what to put in front of them. Thought exercise, thought experiment right now. Take this person in your mind, this person you know really, really well. You know them like the back of your hand. You know them so well. Imagine now you have to send them an email to get them to do something, to buy something. You could probably craft that email pretty easily. You'd use very, very specific things about their life. For example, let's say that you knew that their work experience, that they did an apprenticeship, and halfway through their apprenticeship they had to quit due to poor health, right? And let's then say that we created an offer for this person because you know their health, right? And their work experience, and you also know, these two things. And they had to quit their apprenticeship because of poor health. Well, you could craft an email to email them and say, I have a product that helps apprentices with this specific facet, with migraines. Let's say they had to quit because of migraines. I help apprentices that get migraines remove their migraines so they can advance their career. Does that sound interesting to you? That person's going to respond because it's scarily specific. And the only reason it's scarily specific is because you understand them, okay? And so what we want to try and do is understand the niche and the group of people in the niche on this granular molecular level. And this is how close you want to get to your niche and your avatar, to the point where you can describe your niche as if it's your best friend or your mother or your father. You just know everything about them. So what I'm going to do now is give you an example. And honestly, this is probably going to scare you a little bit. So just a little warning, a little fair warning that, I'm going to scare you a little bit here. So here's an example. So I'm going to give you the Imperium Academy avatar. So I've spent the last 8 years working on my avatar and this program. My avatar extends over nearly 30 pages. So my understanding of you, because this is the avatar, it's you, I've got 30 pages of information on you. I've got a whole dossier, right? Now, you're not going to have 30 pages of information on your avatar yet. It's taken me, you might only have 1 or 2 pages. It's taken me 8 years to build this thing and to get to the point where I know the market better than it knows itself. So this is, if you're wondering, Charlie, why does Charlie make so much money? Why does business seem so easy for him? Why? How is he able to make such good product? How is YouTube videos able to get so many views? I mean, hopefully I haven't ironically failed now that you're watching this, right? But if you've ever seen, my stuff and my content or my products or my processes or Easy Grow, how the hell do you build these things that just seem to work? Why is it so effortless? It's because I've spent 8 years understanding the people that I'm helping. And so because of that, I know, if you sit me down to record an advert on for YouTube ads or something, I don't even need a script anymore. I know exactly what to say. I know exactly what buttons to press because of this. And so I've done all of this in my market. So in the last 8 years, I've made 300 YouTube videos. I've done 500 hours of coaching calls. I've answered or seen more than 10,000 support tickets, for Easy Grow and for clients. I've had more than 100,000 YouTube comments of people giving me feedback. I've spent honestly, it's more than $2 million at this point. But, I spend more than $2 million a year on ads. I've had 12.3 million YouTube views. I've done more than 100,000 cold outreaches to my niche, probably more. I've conducted more than 3,000 sales calls. I've had more than 2,500 clients. And now with the Academy, as of you coming into this, there might be 100,000 people in here, and there might be even more posts. So my understanding is getting deeper and deeper. Not only this, but I was my market. I was who you are. Now, this isn't necessary, but obviously it's a bonus, right? So another reason I understand my niche so well is because I was the niche. Now, you might not have that luxury, and you don't need that luxury, so I wouldn't worry about it, but it does help. Now, my avatar is my secret weapon, and I'm sorry to say this, but there is absolutely no way that I'm going to share my avatar with this program. Because, if I do, what's going to happen is all of my competitors suddenly get, 8 years of work and wisdom in 10 minutes, and I'm not doing that. But B, this is just going to bias you, right? But I'm going to give you some examples. So I've censored most of my avatar, and I'm not even going to give you a Google Doc. I'm going to show you on the screen here, because this is how much I treasure this thing, right? So here's a glimpse into my efforts to understand my niche. And as a member of my niche, you can decide for yourself how good of a job I've done. Try not to freak out, right? So here it is. And you'll notice I've even removed the URL so that nobody can even try and get close to this thing. So what I've got here, this is sort of what an avatar document is going to look like. And so you're going to want to create one of these yourself, and you can model it around my example here. And so what you can see here is I've got 28 pages. And you're going to see most of this has been blacked out because I don't want you to, it's obviously been censored, right? I got 28 pages of this thing. And what you start with on the first page of your avatar is a brief sort of overview of the person. And this should describe the person. And so my avatar for Imperium Academy is desperately determined but doubtful Daniel. So if I had to describe you in 3 words, you as an individual, I'd probably say that you're desperate, I'd say you're determined, and I'd say you're very doubtful. And I think you'd probably agree. And this is where things get a bit fucking frightening, as you can probably tell. So let me guess this about you. Growing up, you were never anything special. At school and during your early mid-teenage years, you just blended into the crowd. You weren't popular, you never did anything outstanding. You were an average or below average student. School came and went in your life as a boring, dumb, and perhaps traumatizing blur. You progressed through school to later years, and as you did, you felt a sense of dread associated with the path laid out for you. University, jobs, kid, die, right? You're aware of the rat race, and it terrifies you. But everyone else does it, so you must be wrong and they must be right. Well, you think they're wrong. You think everyone else is wrong, and you have to do something to escape the rat race before it's too late and can't afford to take a risk to do it. So you want to take risks now. You want to start a business now before you've got a mortgage and children and things tying you down. Also, you're desperate to reject society's financial belief systems, but you lack the confidence to do so. Everyone and everything points towards a 9 to 5, and you kind of go along with it maybe, but secretly you resent it. You think you're better. At some point on your journey, to mediocrity, you come across a stimulus, you come across a video or something on social media. Some millionaire dude talking about success and how it's actually possible. So you're living this normal, boring life, and then suddenly this millionaire comes along on social media, And he's like, and you see this completely different life, and it kind of hooks you in. Now, at first, when you saw this person, you dismissed them as a scammer who was full of shit, but then you saw another, and then they say the right things. And they know what to say to make you angry, happy and sad and confident. When you watch these people, it's like you're being thrown around from emotion to emotion. And, at this point, you're basically an emotional puppet to these male influencers. You're putty in their hands. And you project your desires onto them. So these influencers like that you see, they know what to show you. They know what makes you tick. And you want to be like them. So after a few months of this financial courtship, you give in and you actually buy from this person, this influencer. It could be me. I mean, God, maybe you come into this program, right? This is the most important decision in your life because there's now a shred of belief. Like you've made a step. You've taken a step towards actually building a business. And you've taken some action, you've made a decision, and you've invested, albeit maybe a small amount of money. But now you've got a shred of belief it's possible. A new identity is being formed, and this is where you are right now. You're forming a new identity. You've set an actual goal. You believe it's possible to some degree. What used to be an abstract dream of becoming financially free or never worrying about money again has now solidified into a goal. So you know what? You no longer have dreams, you have goals. Make 10K a month, become a millionaire. You're no longer a consumer, but you're not a business person. Your identity is split between two things. You're split between just being this average dude, just this normal blip in the universe, this irrelevant person that just doesn't do anything exceptional, and entrepreneur. So you kind of got two identities now. You're like just this dude, but you also feel like you're an entrepreneur and you have this potential. You're B to want to be. You're not B to C because you're not a consumer anymore. And you're not B to B because you're not a business right now. You're B to want to be. And so you start. Usually not this course, but if you've bought another course in the past, or you've bought like a university thing for like business, like the first thing you buy usually sucks. Now, if you're lucky enough to start the Imperium Academy, then it won't suck. Because if you go and buy another course after the Imperium Academy, you're going to be incredibly disappointed because this thing is like, I know this is obviously my word and it's biased, but it's so much better. But anyway, but the thing is the first course you buy, you compare to the educational system you've been through. And so you think that even if you, like, let's say you spend $1,000 on one of these guru courses and it really sucks. Well, you think it's good. You don't know it's bad. You know it's bad now because you've been through the academy, right? And you've seen this content, and you've compared it, and you're like, holy shit, right? But at the time, when you go through this course, what you've done is you've compared it to the traditional education system. So you're like, this is so much better than like, I've learned more in this one video than I did in like a year of school. That's what you say. Beginning the journey excites you. It brings you extreme levels of confidence, completely irrational levels of confidence you have at the beginning, by the way. And you have a glimmer of something good in your life. Much to your parents and your friends' dismay, you drop out of university, you quit your job, and you decide to chase your dream. Now, your friends and your parents are, they're like, what the fuck is going on? They're like, you shouldn't try and start a business. They tell you 9 out of 10 businesses fail. Your friends start saying, oh, you think you're better than us. Like, all of the people around you start thinking you're going a little bit insane, right? But at this time, you have confidence, which is why you do it, and you take this big step. But then the doubt comes, that terrible, crippling onslaught of dread and fear that just comes and hits you at like midnight as you're trying to sleep. Confidence, hope, and joy is replaced with uncertainty, terror, and misery. You sabotage yourself, you break your good habits, you undo all your good work. This infuriates you, and then after a few 3 a.m. motivational videos and shadow boxing in your room at 2 a.m., which I know you've done, you're back in action. And then the cycle of emotion repeats itself over and over again. You go from confidence to doubt, extreme, I'm going to be a millionaire and get everything I want, to this isn't worth it, this is never going to work. But you stick to it. You make some small marks of progress, and you suffer significantly for them. You swear that you're just one thing away from success. This one funnel is going to make me successful. This one piece of copy is going to make me successful. This YouTube video is the thing. You're looking for these, you're a sucker for these shiny objects, and you truly believe that one thing will fix all the problems in your life. But you're ruthlessly determined. You're desperate and you're doubtful, but you are bloody determined. You plug on. You're inspired to never quit. You want it and you will work for it. That is you. And that might scare the living shit out of you, because I've just described, well, hopefully, if I've, some of you won't resonate with this because, this is 95% of the people that are watching this video. But there are going to be 5% that are just like, what the hell? That's not me at all, you weirdo, right? But what you need to realize is that avatars are never, the map is not the territory, so to speak. Like, They're not going to be absolutely perfect every single time. But what matters is it accurately describes, 80 to 90% of your market. And so now if you're wondering, well, how does Charlie make so much money and why is it that he knows what to say? And it's because I know you. I've spent 8 years like in love with you, not in like a weird, erotic way, but I love you. I love this market, so to speak. I love it. I love the people in it. I love helping them, and I'm completely obsessed with understanding them. And I'm able to, channel all of that love and that, that passion for this market into really understanding it. And so when you get to a point where you can write something like this, and you should just, this should have just hit you. You should be like thinking like, what the hell? This is weird. This guy understands me really damn well. And this is just scratching the surface. So let's move on. So the next thing you do with your avatar, and by the way, I'm not going to give you like a template for this. You can basically use this sort of example to build your own template, because I don't want to just sort of, there might be more things or less things you want to cover that you feel are relevant here. So I'm going to kind of let some emergence happen, and I'm not giving you a template for your avatar, but you're going to want to create one. But you can do it in your own way, right? Maybe you want to do it on like a Miro board, or maybe you want to draw it. So table of contents. So we've got trauma, which we can jump to. We've got everything we can jump to. So I know everything about you. And so let's start with the trauma. I can give you some examples. So you definitely probably have some trauma. Whether you know it or not, you probably don't know. You probably think I haven't got it, but you probably do. Trauma guides your life, but you're lucky because you have what psychologists would call post-traumatic growth. And this means the predominant way you solve your trauma is through work and growth instead of degeneration and decline. So instead of turning to drinking or partying or cocaine or gambling or heroin, you turn to work and you turn to business. So it's called post-traumatic growth. You still slip into some of these bad habits that you used to cope with the trauma you had as a kid. So you still smoke weed, or you drink from time to time, or you play video games, or you're on short form content or bad websites that you shouldn't be on. But your main coping mechanism for trauma is work, which is good. So maybe you were bullied, and you can pause to read these if you want to. Maybe you got picked on in school. You were probably unpopular in school and had low status in school. Maybe you didn't. Once again, the territory is, the map is not the territory, but maybe you resonate with this, in school. You've broken your personal word 1,000 times, so you lack self-trust. You've made loads of promises to yourself that you'd quit this and start that, but you've broken your word. You don't trust yourself. You feel in your life, you felt directionlessness. In your life, you felt like you've wasted your potential. Maybe in school, you had no friends. Maybe when you were growing up, you were completely isolated because no one understood you. Maybe you come from a broke, poor, or low-income family. Maybe you feel mediocre or average, and that terrifies you. So obstacles, problems, I'm not going to show you these because they're censored. So maybe a problem you say you have is you don't have the time to do it. You think you don't have ample time to make it work. Maybe you're studying or working full-time, and you use this as an excuse to not start or work properly. You've probably done this before. Like, one of the obstacles you have to success is telling yourself you don't have the time. If I open up another one of these, let's just see. Lack of energy. Maybe you're tired all the time and you don't have energy to actually sit down and work consistently, right? You see what I'm saying? Like, these are little pockets of truth. Let's pick another one, it's this one here. Another problem, monoculture business model. You can't think for yourself and you lack critical thinking. So anytime you try and start a business or do anything, you just copy everyone. You probably do that, right? So I can use this understanding to get you to do things, which sounds Machiavellian. So age, you're probably one of these ages. Either you're between 16 and 20, which means that you're an immature, confused teen. You're between 20 and 27, you're emotional, and I call these the I'm falling behinders. So if you're 20 to 27 and you're not successful yet, you probably feel like you're falling behind everyone. And you feel like you need to catch up with all these people you're seeing that are making way more money than you. And if you're between 27 and 35, then you're probably more level-headed, but maybe you feel like a failure. Maybe you feel like you've wasted your 20s and you've failed. And I'm not, as I'm saying this, some of this shit might make you feel emotional. It might make you feel angry. It might make you feel judged. It might make you feel like I'm a dickhead. You might be thinking Charlie's just a dick right now. I'm not doing any of this to judge you. I'm just making observations about the market, okay? And if you're 18, maybe you're just confused. Maybe you're like, what the hell do I do? I don't know where to start, So these are the 3 ages. These are the 3 different types of avatar I've got, and then some doubts. Let's pick one of these, right? So One thing that you probably doubt is your competence. You feel like an imposter. That's just another example, Goals and dreams, right? I know your goals and dreams. Another goal you've got, supercars or equivalent status object. Maybe another goal you've got is, being shredded, learning to fight, monk mode, good habits, all of this stuff. So fears, your primary fears of failure, wasting potential. You're afraid of commitment. You're afraid of mediocrity. You're afraid of the shame from your family and friends. You're afraid of being judged. You're afraid of losing the opportunity because you feel like it's now or never. You're afraid of someone saying, I told you so. Recession, rejection, not being able to provide, losing, starting too late, being out of control, being left behind, disappointing your parents, being mundane, burned out, getting out competed, all of these things. You're afraid of them. So you kind of get the point. I've got these sort of data points. Like, what do you think about? I know what you think about. There's only 12 things that you think about. Politics, money, women, other men that you're competing with, the game, your business, sports, your video games, health, religion if you have one, material objects, education, which is learning new things, vices, and relationships. These are the only things that you think about. Maybe there's one or two more, but you get the point, right? I know you so well, and because of that, I can use that knowledge to get you to do things, buy things, learn things, make progress. Now, a little ethical warning, if you're going to do this and you're going to build this, please make sure you're doing it for the right reasons, because with this understanding of this market, I could wreak some absolute havoc. And you've only got to look on the internet to sort of realize that this is true with all the people that scam and, create massive problems online. Like, they're just using this knowledge to, further a negative agenda. So everything that I'm doing here and all of these things that I understand, I always want to use for good. Like, I want to use these understandings to, really help you and, help you progress. So what do you resent? Well, you probably resent social media algorithms for showing you content that fuels your bad habits. You probably resent part of yourself, bad friends. You probably resent the government, an ex-girlfriend, sometimes even your parents. So maybe you resent the far left or feminists. Once again, I'm not saying that either of these two things are good or bad. I'm not trying to make this political. That's not what this program's about. You'll know this. But a lot of people in my niche, I'm observing the truth. They do not like, they resent the far left wokeness. I'm not saying whether or not I do. I'm just telling you what I've observed. This is kind of the truth, right? They don't like anyone that's weak and soft. The education system, they resent the education system for not teaching you what you need to know. So I've got a lot of this, right? What are your traits? You can pause, and these traits probably perfectly describe you. Yeah, so that might frighten you a little bit, and you might not sleep as well tonight. Sorry about that. But this is my point. What I wanted to do was just show you a few pockets of this so that you can basically, like, just like understand like the importance of this and how imperative that this thing is to your success and your growth and your progress. Like, you just got to know it, okay? Because if you do, then you'll absolutely crush everyone. So avatars are never going to be perfect. That's impossible, because we're taking an average person in the niche. Average is as good as we've got, unfortunately, but it definitely gets the job done. You simply cannot understand every single person in your niche on a case-by-case basis. So by showing you this, what I'm hoping to have achieved is helping you understand just how important this is. And you might be thinking, like, for your niche, like, there's no way that there's that much detail on them. Trust me, there is. If you spend, many, many years talking to many, many people in the same place, you'll be able to create one of these things, and it will be 20 to 30 to 40 pages long. It really will. Like, this is possible, right? So, yeah. Now that you know a little bit about this, let's talk about this thing called ongoing cycle. So building an avatar requires market understanding. And to start, you have to do manual research. So in order for us to really, the best way to get to grips with an avatar is to do sales calls and talk to clients. But the problem is you can't talk to clients and get sales calls if you don't understand your avatar, because you need the avatar to get it. So let me explain. So true market understanding comes from doing sales calls, talking to customers, and getting results. And here's how it goes. So you heavily research your market to hypothesize your avatar. So the first avatar you create is basically a hypothesis. And what this in essence means is you're creating a theory about what these people are like. And that's your version 1. And you're going to use this hypothesis to call out your niche and get sales calls and clients. And so you're going to craft your cold emails around this avatar. You're going to craft your cold DMs around this avatar. You're going to craft your cold calling scripts around this avatar. You're going to create your sales pitch, your content, your machine. Your whole business is going to be created around this thing. And this hypothesis should be accurate enough, because I'm going to show you how to do this. It should be accurate enough to get some sales calls. And so once you've got some sales calls and some clients, then this will help you re-hypothesize a more accurate avatar, which will be version 2. And this new, more accurate hypothesis will help you get more sales calls and more clients, and more sales calls and more clients will help you get a more accurate avatar, and so on and so forth. And so a positive feedback loop forms. So this is amplification again. You should remember the idea of positive feedback loops from Six-Figure Fusion. And this is what it looks like. So the depth of your avatar, like if the deeper your avatar gets and the more you understand it, the more sales calls and clients you can get, because the better the stimulus that you can use to attract people to the business and to get customers. And the more sales calls and clients you get, the better your understanding of your avatar gets. And the better your avatar understanding and depth gets, the more sales calls and clients. And this thing just feeds back and feeds back. And you will over time have this exponential avatar understanding where you'll get to a point where you can write a day in the diary of your avatar, of your niche. Like I can predict you and your behavior like to a T. I know exactly what you're going to do today. I know exactly what you're going to think. I know exactly what beliefs you have. I know exactly what trends are going to make you click. I know exactly what you like to eat. I know exactly what religions a lot of you have. I know exactly what you think about at 3 a.m. when you can't fall asleep. I know everything about you. And this is also what politicians do as well. So if you've ever wondered why some political leaders are just so successful and seem to have so much charisma and popularity with a certain group of people, it's because they know what to say. They know all these political messages that have come out of the mouth of the politician, whether it's "Make America Great Again" or whether it's Hitler with the Nazis, whether it's Churchill with "We'll fight them on the beaches," whether it's Obama, whether it's a Roman emperor. Like all of these speeches and all of these words they say and all of these messages that resonate, like they're so carefully engineered because of the level of understanding. Like for example, when we had Brexit in the UK and the UK left the European Union, Dominic Cummings, the guy who engineered Brexit behind the scenes, he came up with the strapline or the message for Brexit for the Brexit Party of "take back control." And what these 3 words did is they encapsulated the psychological conditions of 50% of the United Kingdom, because all of these people who had been like typically an older generation as well, what had happened is this elder generation, they felt like they weren't in control anymore. They didn't have their country. They wanted to take their country back. And I'm not saying, once again, this is not political. I'm just making an observation. I'm not saying whether or not Brexit's good and whether or not take back control is good. But the Brexit Party, credit to them, they really nailed that message, because take back control just resonated so hard across the entire United Kingdom that they won a campaign off of it. Same thing with Trump, "Make America Great Again." A lot of Americans feel like America, they remember it being great and it's not great anymore. And so if you say "make it great again," they're like, "Oh my God, this thing's amazing," right? So once again, I'm not giving you my political opinions. I'm just telling you the truth, okay? And so this is how we build avatar understanding and depth. Now, I'm probably on avatar version 104. I've been working on this thing for years, 8 years, like hundreds of thousands of touch points with my market, and now I can actually create something insane. You're never going to build the perfect avatar first time around. Your version 1 is going to be weak, poorly rounded, shallow, and not entirely accurate. You're going to do maybe 10 hours of research and try and build this thing, and it's going to be like a page long, and you're going to be thinking, damn, this is nothing. And that's fine, because mine was that at the beginning as well. When I started, my avatar was like 2 pages, and it was kind of all wrong. But it should be enough to get you going. And as you go through the next few action items and exercises to build your avatar, don't worry if it's as extensive as mine. Just try your best and Try and keep this thing a work in progress. So every month, revisit it, rebuild it, make the unconscious conscious. Like write down what you know about the market and what you've learned. And imagine an avatar is kind of like a car with tires that have very shallow traction, but for every mile, so imagine a car with tires that have a really bad grip. They've got very shallow traction, which means they haven't got much grip on the road. But for every mile that these tires drive, the traction on the tire increases by 0.01%. So every time you drive the thing, it gets a little bit grippier. With enough repetition in miles, the tires will grip the road like nothing else. And this is how building your avatar works. Like at the beginning, the car has no grip, no traction, but the further it drives, the more traction it gets. At the beginning, your avatar is going to be shallow and very misunderstood, but as you progress, you're going to understand it more. And this is another reason why you need to have high stickability in your business, because the longer you stick to this thing, the deeper your market understanding becomes, the easier it is for you to do everything. So action item. So do this right now, pause the video and do this right now. Make a Google Doc called Avatar, bookmark it, and then continuously work on it, okay? So I want to see you do this now. Make a Google Doc, call it Avatar. Don't even have to fill it out yet, but just make it, and then put it in your bookmarks so so it appears in your bookmarks tab up here, and just continuously work on it. So do that now. You should be doing that right now. I'll give you a second to do it. Go and do it now. And don't be one of the people who says, oh, I don't need to do that. I know my niche. Or I'll do it later. Maybe you've just put that on the to-do list. Do it now. There's no time like the present to put cause to effect, my friend. So the next thing is the immersion strategy. So the point of this video is total niche immersion. And immersion basically means to become heavily, heavily involved in something. And so what we're going to do now that you understand the importance of understanding your niche and you've seen the absolute devastating raw power, that comes with being able to do that as demonstrated by my avatar and, my understanding of you, we're going to develop an immersion strategy. So this is by far the most powerful strategy on the planet for avatar building and niche research. And I created this and did exactly this to build all my avatars for my past businesses and my present business. And this strategy got me to 10K a month, 100K a month, and $1 million a month, respectively. And it's going to get me to 3 million a month soon, right? So this strategy contains 5 key steps, and you can see the document below. So we have step 1, which is called immersive community. Step 2, which is called immersive internet. Step 3, which is called immersive content. Step 4, immersive outreach. And step 5, conducting research calls. So in order to build your avatar, in order to find your problem, in order to find a solution, we've got to do 5 things in order, okay? So you can come here, and this will be available in the resources section below this video, or obviously on this Google Doc as well. So here is a fully fledged immersion strategy. So in the same way that professional actors will immerse themselves in the world of the character of their upcoming role, we too want to do the same thing for our niche. So to do this, we use a process that I've created called total immersion strategy, or just immersion strategy. Immersion means deep involvement in something. And what I've done is create 2 resource feeds. So I'm telling you, this is where we're going to really start doing some work. So there's going to be a lot of resources in this video, and we've got resources inside of resources inside of resources. So what you can do is come to immersion strategy, and maybe you want to go to file and make a copy for yourself. And organize it in a Google Drive. But you want to, this should say 60, not 90, sorry about that. But what we want to do here, let me just make sure that this doesn't say 90 elsewhere. Okay, that's good. So what you want to do is come to this immersion strategy document, and you want to find the niche dictionary and the niche immersion research notes. And so what we're going to do is open these 2 up, and these will also be available in the resources section to download as a PDF. But you'll want to click here for the Google Doc, open this up, and then make a copy for yourself so you can actually edit it and do the same thing for this. And so the niche dictionary is basically what it sounds like. So your niche is going to have language, and they're going to have jargon. And what that basically means is they're going to have terms that give meaning in their life specifically to them that only they will understand. And so, for example, in the business world, for high-ticket businesses specifically that run ads, we have AOV, which stands for average order value, which is how much cash is collected up front at the point of sale. Let's say you work with dentists, they have the word Invisalign, You know, what the hell does that mean? You know, or maybe they have a different like term for sanitation or something. And so what's going to happen as you do your niche research and as you immerse yourself in your niche, as I'm going to show you how to do, is you're going to start noticing words that you don't know how to define. And you're going to start to learn the language of your niche, and you need to become fluent in that language. And so what you want to do is bookmark your niche dictionary. And what I've done is I've basically created this 10 pages of terms and definitions. So every time you come across a word you don't quite understand, you can define it and refer back to it. And this is how you're going to speak the language of your niche. So when you're booking sales calls and doing sales calls, or when you're making content, or when you're creating products, or when you're building ads, you know the niche. You know how they talk, and you know what to say, and you know what everything means. Okay? So bookmark this and save it. The next thing we have is the niche immersion research notes. And this is another thing where you want to go to File, make a copy. You can click here for that. You want to write everything down. So everything you learn in the next couple of months about your niche, every fact, every nugget, every idea, every point, literally everything, no matter how trivial it may seem. We want to map every piece of knowledge you get in your niche. And you want to highlight the stuff that's really important in bold. And so what we can do is we can create categories. Now, you're not going to be able to do this yet, but as you consume more content and talk to more people, categories will evolve. A category is basically like a bucket of discussion. And so, you know, if you're working in the gym niche, then one category that people might talk about is membership retention. Or if you're in the binge eating niche, if you're in the binge eating niche, for example, then one category that people might talk about is relapse. And so once you've spent many hours researching your niche, you'll be able to categorize the discussions that you learn and the points that you learn and the information that you learn. And you can color categories accordingly. So, you know, you can color them so you know what people are talking about and where to put it. And then you want to list and color your categories here. So you're going to just list them. You're not going to know what the categories are yet. You really won't. You're going to have to, you know, do this later. But eventually you're going to want to list the categories. Like when you start to notice patterns emerging, you're like, oh, this is a category. This has been brought up many times. So then we've got our notes. So I've given you 50 pages of notes here, you know, to write down, because really you should aim to fill this as much as you possibly can. If you saw my notes on my niche, I've been keeping notes on my niche now for like 5 years. It's like, I think it's like 203 pages long, or I think it's more than that actually, since I last checked. But anyway, you know, you can use this and get started with this. So the way you use this is you basically list the date that you found the piece of information, and then you link the source to the piece of information and the timestamp of the source or the page of the source. So if it's a book, you put what page it is. If it's a video or a podcast, you link the timestamp. But basically, you want to organize it where you know what day or what date you found the information on, you know where you found it, and you know where specifically to go in that source of information to find that information. And then what you do is you write down, you know, using your color-coded categories, what you learned. So for example, if your niche was coaches and consultants, then what you might want to do is, you know, come over to YouTube, right, like this. And so let's say that you're in the coaching consulting niche. And so you come to my YouTube channel to watch me talk to 40 consultants about mindset, which is what this video is, right? And so at this point in this video, I make the point of high-ticket consultants struggle with burnout. That's research. That's a piece of information that you can use to build your avatar, and it's also it reveals a problem. So, you know, off the back of this one piece of information, maybe your niche, maybe your problem becomes burnout, and you become an expert in helping high-ticket consultants with burnout, just off of one piece of information. So anything that, even no matter how trivial it seems, you know, we're trying to do pattern recognition. You know, we're really just looking for as much information as we can here. And yeah, you're just gonna, you know, come to these videos and, you know, go to these sources, and you're gonna be fine. And then obviously, you know, this is another example. So this source here is like if you're in the let's say you're in the dental niche. Once again, I'm not advocating for the dental niche. It's just a, you know, it's just a pretty easy one to think off the top of my head. At this timestamp, you know, this dentist, this millionaire dentist, is talking about how he did everything himself before hiring anyone to do it for him. So he learned how to do it himself first, and you can hear him say that at this timestamp. And so this is how you do research: is we find the categories and we bucket them together, and then we and then we go out on a specific day and we find our sources and we watch them and learn from them and then note down what we've learned. And then this way you create this index of notes that are categorized and, you know, dated. And if you want to go back to the source, you can. You know, I know this works because this is literally what I did. I haven't learned this from anyone, by the way. I haven't like taken this. I had to create this process myself because there's no process. There's no process out there that I found that actually works except from this one for proper niche research. So yeah, you can use that. Right. Step 1, immersive community. So this is your secret weapon. Like the single best strategy that I've found for niche research is this. Everything else, if you just do this and you really nail this, you can throw the rest of it out the window. You shouldn't, but this thing slaps. This is the easiest way to learn your niche, right? We're going to do it all, but this is the first thing to do. So what we want to do is create a free community for members of your niche to join. So we're going to make a community. And the reason we're making this community is because you're going to be able to observe interactions, ask questions, and potentially even host Zoom calls to observe your niche closely. This is of extreme importance, right? So the rest of your niche research strategy will feed into this community. So what we're doing is we're creating a group and we're going to invite people to this group. We're going to host it in School because School has the best user interface and it will give you the most engagement and interaction. And School is, by the way, the platform that you're watching these videos on right now. So you can tell it works, which is why we use it. And what you're going to do is you're going to create this community, and throughout your entire research process, you're going to add people to this community and you're going to invite people, and it's going to grow and it's going to flourish and people are going to post in it. You can host Zoom calls with the community. You can message everyone in the community like directly on School and ask them about things. This is like the flywheel. So what you want to do is head over to this link here and log into School. Now you're probably already logged into School if you're watching this video. So if I just come here like this, it will ask me to create an account, but you should have a School account so you can just log in. So click log in and then just log in with your account, the same account you're using to access these videos. Then you want to name your community. Now you need to set up a payment. So it is $97 a month. There's a 14-day free trial. So, you know, you're going to be good for like 2 weeks anyway, but it's $100 a month. Now I know this is a cost and it might hurt a little, but trust me, like this is going to pay you back 100,000 times over in the future. Like, remember how important this niche research thing is. I know it's like $100 a month. Like, oh, I want to get started with no money. Like, if you can't be bothered investing $100 a month in your business, you're probably not going to get very far. Like, you know, if you're working like a normal job for like, you know, I don't know, $15 an hour, then just work an extra 6 hours a month. Like, trust me, $100 a month to invest in a community that's really going to help you understand your niche. Like, just do it. I know you might be like, oh, I don't know if I need to do it or not. It's like $97, but like if you're not willing to risk $97 a month, like how the hell are you going to start this thing? And you know, it's also a good accountability technique because now you're spending money. Trust me, I'm going to keep this program as lean as possible. And you already know about the cost of this program, right? I'm not here to profit off you, but if I tell you that you need something, you need it, right? So there are going to be a few softwares throughout this program that you're going to have to invest in, but they're never going to cost you much, but you need them. So yeah, basically that's all I'm telling you, right? You kind of need to have them. So keeping it as cheap as possible for you, but still some things do require some cost. So name your community, set your community up, set your payment up, and you can call your community anything you want. So, you know, if you're in the binge eating niche, you'd call it overcoming binge eating, or, you know, binge eaters recover or something. Or if you're in the dental niche, you could call it like, you know, dentists unite, or, you know, wisdom for dentists, and then you make it like a wisdom tooth logo. I don't bloody know. I don't know. But you can call it whatever you want, right? Doesn't really matter. So head over to your community settings and go to general. So inside of School, you know, you'll see a little option for settings in School. And if you can't find it, just look for 2 minutes because it's a very straightforward platform. Go to your general settings. You want to format the community. You know, don't overthink this. I don't want to see anyone spending 3 days on a School group logo because you don't need one. But, you know, go and grab a cover photo, write a description, put the initials in. This shouldn't take you more than 10 minutes. If it does, then you're spending too much time on it. Make the group public and update the settings. navigate to tabs and turn the classroom and the calendar off. So you can go to, school will by default have a classroom and calendar feature. But if you don't want that, which you probably don't, then you can turn them off. And then you can check other settings. So there might be other settings in school because while I'm making this video now, and by the time you watch this, school might have updated itself. So, just use your brain. School is a very intuitive platform, and you can go to the settings of your community that you've just created and configure them so that they make sense. Make sure it's free, make sure it's named properly, and you're pretty much good to go, okay? So now you have your community platform ready to go. So we're not actually going to be inviting people to this yet, but what you're going to do now is every single interaction you have with someone in this research phase, which is basically going to be a 60-day research phase, then you're going to invite them to community for free. So if you talk to someone in your niche on Reddit about, the problem they're facing, then you can say, oh, by the way, I'm in this community. It might be good if you joined it as well. Maybe you'll find some value in it, right? It's free. So every time you talk to someone in your niche, every time that you engage with a YouTube comment in your niche, you can just plug your community. And the goal is really going to be over the next 60 days to get 30, 40, 50 to 100 people in this thing. And then it's going to be this cool little tight-knit group. And if you can get 30 people in a group and they're all the same, then you can extrapolate your understanding and project your understanding of those 30 people onto 30,000. It's a very powerful thing to do. So do not underestimate how important this is. Set it up. You've got 14 days before it will bill you. And as you do research, you're going to add people to this group. Okay? So keep this group forever. And I really mean this. Yeah, it's a cost, but over time, you could have thousands of people in this group. From referrals, lost sales calls. If you're making content, you can send people to this group. You want to just continuously work to fill this thing up. Now, I will note one thing, that the link that I'm providing you here is an affiliate link. So if you sign up through this link, then I will receive an affiliate commission, although it's not all that significant, but I figured why not? You're going to do it anyway, right? So there we go. So one thing that's really, really important is that this community will make you more money if you leave it alone and don't pitch or sell. So this is the biggest mistake people make with their free communities that I see, is they're always in there pitching or selling. If you just use this community to better understand your niche, then you can use that understanding, this organic, raw understanding, to improve every system in your business in terms of acquisition. But the second you start pitching or selling in your community is the second that this community will die. It will just die. It will just not work. So you want to keep it pitch free, and it's going to grow. It's going to make you more money by providing constant new niche and avatar insights. So I'm not going to give you a SOP on how to run this community because it's pretty self-explanatory. You just start inviting people to it that you talk to, and you just aim for 30 to 50 members, and then you get really active in there. And then you start messaging people, and you just manage it in the same way that you'd manage a group of friends. And hopefully you don't need instructions on how to do that. But you want to keep it forever, and you want to keep growing it. So step 2 is immersive internet. So once we've done step 1, which is building this community and getting a bunch of people together in the same niche so we can just see them interact and understand them and talk to them directly, the next thing we have is immersive internet. So now you're going to essentially be going undercover. Okay, so you're going to become a spy. On the internet, you're going to be acting as a member of your niche. So you want to become a member of your niche as far as algorithms, platforms, and other users of the internet are concerned. So what we're going to do here is go undercover. You're going to create social profiles and an internet presence as if you were a member of the niche. And what we're going to do is we're going to immerse you in the world of the niche, at least in the internet term. So let me explain. So step 2.1 is to create an alias in your niche. So you're either going to pick male or female, and then age. So how old is your avatar? So you should know enough about your niche to know if they're majority men or women, and if they're majority, how old they are, right? So for example, if you're working with bodybuilders, then you're more if you're working with female bodybuilders and that's your niche, and they're middle-aged, then you're going to pick a woman and be 40, right? Or 50. And then you're going to pick a name. This can be anything. I've just given 2 random examples here. So just name them. It shouldn't be your name. And then ethnicity. So you're going to pick what's their ethnicity? Are they Asian, Hispanic, Caucasian, white, black, whatever. So then you want to pick 4 things based on your niche and what they look like. So of these 4 things, so pick them, male or female, how old, what age, and what ethnicity. So pick these 4 things based on your niche and what they look like. So once you've done this, and you've sort of do this right now, pen and paper, who are you creating? Then you want to create a Gmail for this person, right? So just go to, gmail.com and then create a new Google account for this person. And then what you want to do is head over to this website and generate a photo of your alias. So this website is called This Person Does Not Exist. And this is an AI tool. And what it will do is it will generate a human face that doesn't exist. So you're not going to get in trouble for, using any of these because, well, these people aren't real. So if you pick female and, you want a female who's, between 19 and 25 years old, and you want a Indian woman, I'd refresh this. And then what this tool will do is it will give you, a person, and then what you can do is you can zoom out a little bit, and then now you've got a profile picture. And if you don't like what it's given you, then you can refresh it and it will give you another one. Or it should. Well, it didn't. That's in bad. Well, let's just increase the age a little bit. Yep. So there you go, right? So it will give you a random face, which you can now zoom out to see. And then what you can do is you can screenshot this face like this, and now you have a profile picture for everything. And if you need the picture to be a bit smaller, you can zoom out a lot, and then you can just, do it like this, okay? And that will give you a profile picture for your alias. So now now you're putting a face to the name, so to speak, which is kind of cool. And let's just get rid of these. Okay. So you want to save this photo to your desktop, your Chrome profile, etc. So the next thing we need to do is actually open a new Chrome profile. So you should be using Google Chrome. If you're using any other browser, then, well, you shouldn't. You should just use Google Chrome because it's the most efficient. And so what you want to do is create a Chrome profile. So open Google Chrome and create a new profile. So if you come up to these three little dots, you'll see where it says signed in here, okay? And what you want to do is click on this, and I'm not going to click on it because it has my information on it, but you want to click on this, and then it will give you the option to create a new Chrome profile. So you can see this here, click where it says signed in, and then create a new Chrome profile, okay? And you want to sign into this new Chrome profile using your alias Gmail that you've just created, okay? So from now on, you must only use this profile for your undercover work. So what we've done in step 2 is created this fake person who's going to be infiltrating the niche. So what we're going to do is we're going to spend all of our time on the internet as this person, at least surrounding our niche. The reason we create a new Chrome profile is so that your current social media profiles, that are assigned to your identity and who you are right now, they're all biased, and you're going to see information relevant to you because you're in your own niche. But if we create a new Chrome profile and a new email and a new alias, and we only use that on this new Chrome profile, now we can start to engineer the social media algorithms and the advertising algorithms to show us what our niche would see, okay? And this will become clear. So the next step is to create social profiles using your new Chrome profile in Gmail. So remember, any research you do, any undercover work, we're going to be doing on our Chrome profile relevant to our alias. So you go into your new Chrome profile, logged into this alias, and you're going to create social media accounts. So you're going to create LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Reddit, Telegram, Discord, Pinterest, etc. So any platforms that your niche hang around on, you're going to create this on, So if you work with like middle-aged dentists, you're not going to bother with TikTok or Telegram, but probably LinkedIn and Facebook, right? So use your brain and create social profiles using the new Chrome profile. The next thing is to make your profiles look real. So you want to add old profile pictures, like pictures of like some nature or something, cover photos, posts, descriptions, etc. So you want to make your profiles that you just created look real, like a real human. And then once you've done this and made them look real, you open up all these social profiles and you want to imagine that you're in your niche. So put yourself in your niche's shoes. Where is the first place they would go upon creating these profiles? Go there and start engaging, 10 minutes per platform. So, if in Facebook, if you're working in, once again, the dental niche, right? Just as an example, if you're working in the dental niche, then you're going to start putting in your Facebook profile things about being a dentist. You could put like mother to 2 and dentist for 20 years. And then you put that you work dentist at dentist. And then your cover photo could literally be like some bloody wisdom teeth or something. I don't know. But you want to make it really apparent that you are this person, right? And once you've done that, you're going to start going where they would go. So, if you're a dentist and you've just created a Facebook profile, then, one of the first things you might think about doing is going and joining a free Facebook group for dentists, Or maybe you'd go and find like some dentists that you know and add them as friends. Or maybe you write a post about a client you just had and how you help them with a specific problem in their teeth. And this is just a specific example. I'm not once again advocating for the dental niche. I'm just giving an example. If you were like a binge eater, maybe you wouldn't put in your Facebook bio that you're a binge eater, but maybe you'd put like, you write a post like, I've been recovering from binge eating. And then maybe you'd go and join like a group, or maybe you'd go on Facebook Reels or Facebook videos or whatever the hell people do on Facebook these days and look for videos about overcoming binge eating. Like, remember, these algorithms, they show you more of what you look for. And so if we know what our niche looks for and we go and look for it, then the algorithms will start to show us what the niche would see. And if you do this for long enough, after a couple of weeks, all of these social profiles, like as far as these algorithms and the people in this niche are concerned, you are part of them. And so the algorithms will show you what your niche will see. And now you're a man on the inside. You know exactly what these people are seeing. You know exactly what news articles they read. You know exactly what videos they watch. You know exactly what groups they join. You know exactly what they engage with. And it's kind of like you're living this false life. I did this once on TikTok. I was bored on holiday and I wanted to see how quickly I could convince TikTok that I was a teenage girl with depression. And I know that's a weird thing to want to do when you're bored, but I was thinking about social media algorithms, as you do on holiday if you're abnormal. But I was thinking about these algorithms, and I was having an argument with a friend of mine about how damaging these algorithms were, and she was like, no, they're not damaging at all. I was like, well, all right, I'll show you. So I download TikTok, I create a new Gmail. I download this on my phone. Bear in mind, I've never used TikTok before, so it's not biased. And then what TikTok starts doing is it starts showing me, stuff in the feed. And what I would do on TikTok is anytime TikTok showed me a video that was not relevant to what I thought a teenage girl with depression would see or want to see, I put not interested. So, if it showed me like a video of someone making like a pizza, I would open up the option for in TikTok to like do stuff around and engage with the video, engage with it. And I would just tap not interested. And anytime TikTok showed me anything remotely close to mental health or like, Taylor Swift or something, I would like it. And then I would share it with like people on WhatsApp and be like, check this out. And that tells the algorithm, okay, this person wants to see more of this stuff. And within, I think, about 6 minutes, I had my TikTok algorithm literally just showing me other girls with mental health problems. And that's what we're looking to do. I mean, that's obviously a bit of a weird example. It's a bit of you didn't need that window into my life, but you know what I mean, right? These algorithms, you can easily manipulate them to show you what you want them to show you. And so if you're in a niche, and if you're going into the trading niche and you're going to help Forex traders, then create a profile that demonstrates that you're a Forex trader, and then go and look for content around Forex. And then before you know it, within probably about an hour or two, all you're going to see is content on Forex. And now you're hooked up to the lifeline. Now it's in your blood, like it's connected to your brain, right? And now you can just scroll through like what these traders are seeing and what engages them. And then you'll start to find like inside jokes. Then you'll find problems, and every single step of the way, you're going to be I should say 60. Every single step of the way as you go through this, where is it here? Where is it? Oh, it's up here. Every single step of the way, you're going to be filling out your dictionary, and you're going to be making notes. So if you come across like an Instagram reel about trading, and it gives you like something you don't understand, then you're going to define the term. If you see like a community post or a Reddit post about something, you're going to write it down. We're going to completely immerse ourselves, completely submerge ourselves in the life of the niche. So just one quick note with these social profiles, like especially with Facebook and these other platforms, don't engage too much at the beginning or you're going to get banned. So you only really, at the beginning, once you've created these social profiles, you only really want to do like 3 to 5 actions per social profile. So, if your niche is, I don't know, let's say that your niche is crypto coin makers, and you create a Twitter account, just follow like 5 people. Just let the algorithm know your intention at the beginning. Don't do anything that isn't related to crypto, because then you'll start seeing crap you don't need. But we want to engineer them. So right now we're warming up the alias profiles and setting the initial conditions. So, if you're in the dental niche, join the groups on Facebook, follow some famous dentists. If you're on Twitter, follow some dental companies. If you're on Reddit, do this. LinkedIn, do this. Also, you can do this with YouTube. So I'm actually gonna put this in brackets, YouTube too. So YouTube's a big one, right? So what I mean by YouTube too, let me just highlight this, is like what you can do is create your new Chrome profile, right? Go over to YouTube and search for whatever you think your niche would see. Open up and watch, 5 videos in full length on that thing, and then go to your YouTube recommended page, and all you're gonna see is stuff related to what your niche would see. This is like, you usually can't access this. Usually your social media algorithms are so biased and engineered towards you and your ideal, state of perfection that you're never going to be able to re-engineer your own personal feeds and algorithms and recommended sections to what your niche will see. But if you go on YouTube right now and you create a brand new Chrome profile, and the first thing you do on that is you go and watch a 2-hour podcast relevant to your niche, and you go back to your recommended, you're going to see everything that these people see. And you're now on the inside. You're a fucking spy, mate. You're going to know everything, right? So, join things, follow, add, comment, like, share. And note, you will not run your school community using your alias, only your social profiles. So this is another important thing, is maybe you want to make a school profile for your alias, and then this alias becomes the advocate for your group. So, if this alias is hanging out on Reddit, which is a really good place to find things, like, if you're on Reddit, then you can start to engage on Reddit under your alias. And then what you can do is you can say, hey, by the way, I'm in this group specifically for people like us. Why don't you join it? It's free. That's way more powerful than you as the owner of the business and the owner of the group trying to grow it. Because then it looks like a referral. It looks like word of mouth. And so you can really do this, and you can really get away with growing your group through your alias. And then this alias is kind of in this group and no one knows it's you. Right? It sounds Machiavellian, and if you feel that that's not what you should do, then you don't have to do it, but it will work and it will make you money. So engage further on these platforms, give it, a day or 2 once you've done this initially, and then repeat the engagement. Now, never engage with anything irrelevant to your niche. So understand this. You have your Chrome profile, and you have your social profiles and your media profiles like YouTube, etc., and they are only for your alias. Anytime you log into those socials, or anytime you log into that Chrome profile, you only look at stuff relevant to your niche. You never click on a dog video because it interests you. Remember, you're undercover, and you've got to pick the stuff that these people would be interested in. So once you've done this, and another thing you can do, which is really good, is you can start actively searching for products online that your niche would purchase using your Chrome profile and your social profiles. And this way you're going to get pixeled, and we'll start seeing ads on your alias account your niche would see. So if you're in the if you want to go in the landscaping niche, then maybe you start, doing some research on tools, or let's say you're going into the tree surgeon niche. Maybe you start looking up chainsaws to buy. And what's going to happen is these chainsaw companies, they have what is called a Facebook pixel on their websites, and they have Google UTMs. But anyway, all these websites that are trying to sell things, they track you. And so if you go and see a chainsaw on a certain website, on an e-commerce store, and you go back to Facebook, you're now going to start receiving adverts for chainsaws. And not only that, you're going to start receiving adverts for other things that your niche would need and use that you didn't even know about. And so this is another way to further understand your niche, is, go think, what would this person want to buy? What would this person Google? What would this person look for? What would they search for? What websites do they go to? What forums do they go to? But what do they do? If you start doing that, then the niche will unfold to you, and the algorithms will tell you everything. So continue engaging in niche-specific content, following accounts, etc., etc. Now, the easiest way to do this is just imagine that your job is to make this alias and this person look real. So, this person has a LinkedIn profile, a Facebook profile, they're on Twitter, they've got a YouTube channel, they've got a Reddit, presence, they've also got like their own email, maybe they're on like Discord as well. This is by no means a definitive list, because maybe you join a Discord community, maybe you join like a Pinterest thing, I don't know, you can use your brain. But 30 days from now, imagine that a stranger in your niche is going to come along and decide whether or not you're real. And if they decide that your profiles are not real, then you die. Think of it like that. You're trying to just convince not only people in your niche, but the algorithms that this is a real thing, and that's your job. That's your entire job. So the next thing is visit websites and forums, visit blogs and stores that your niche would visit. Let the algorithms accelerate your immersion. Trust me, this is powerful. If you know that your niche is on TikTok, hop on TikTok and then start behaving as if you're in your niche, and just watch that thing like mold and adapt to your niche. And then suddenly, like, you are now your niche. You are at one with the niche. Like, you're literally in live time seeing exactly what they would see, reading exactly what they would read, hearing exactly what they would hear. You're going to start getting recommendations for their political belief systems. You're going to start to find out what they're afraid of. You're going to start to find out what makes them tick, what makes them engaged. You're going to find out, you're going to start finding like memes. Like if you start looking at buying chainsaws and, you join Tree Surgeons United and, you read tree surgeon vlogs, you're going to start to be served tree surgeon memes, oh, that feeling when the apprentice, nearly dies, and then a tree's like falling on some guy. Like, you're going to start to really get to grips with them. Over time, your alias feeds will be what your niche would see. You'll get the same content, shorts, reels, TikToks, videos, memes, posts, comments, likes as your niche. This is total immersion, and this is how you learn the true language of your niche alongside what they want, what problems they have, etc., etc. Okay? So maybe you keep seeing like Instagram reels in the tree surgeon niche of tree surgeons complaining about their apprentices and how they can't get good apprentices. Okay, well, now there's a problem. Maybe you find the problem. You think, okay, I want to ask them about this. I want to ask these tree surgeons, like, is this really a massive issue? Like, would you pay to solve this? Damn, okay, well, I've heard from like 15 tree surgeons that they'd pay to find good apprentices. Okay, well, there's suddenly this idea starts to emerge. Like, damn, that could be a business, right? All because of a meme. Anyway, so once you've done immersive internet, which is something you should do, at this point, you've now got a free group that will just gradually grow over time as you engage and start sending people to it through the internet. You've also got all your social profiles that are engineered towards your niche. Now we've got immersive content. So step 3 is basically find and read the best books for this niche. There'll be 5 of them probably, to 10 of them. Find and listen to all episodes of the top 3 podcasts in this niche. And I mean this, all episodes, right? Find and watch all the videos of the top 3 YouTubers for this niche. So find the YouTube, like, is there a YouTube channel for tree surgeons? Like tree surgeon tutorials or dentist tutorials or binge eating tutorials, like, these niches that you could pick. Find the YouTubers, find the players, find the influencers, and consume everything that they have to offer. Find and read all the blog posts from the top 3 bloggers in this niche. Find and watch the top 5 interviews in this niche. Find, subscribe to, and read the top 3 to 5 email lists in this niche. Like, these things exist. All of these niches, they have a world of their own. They have their own pocket of reality that contains an infinite amount of content if you just know where to look. So what I've done is I've created a resource that you can use to organize this content, and it's called a to consume list. So on this to consume list, what I've done is I've listed out all the forms of media or consumption that you could follow, and I've labeled them. So you want to do this right now, like start looking, like what are the books? Like is it like a tree surgeon for dummies book? Or how to what's that word that they use when they're like, is it coppicing a tree? Coppicing? I don't know. Anyway, you get the point. Maybe that's a completely different word. I don't even know the meaning of it. But like find the books that the niche would read and have read. Find the interviews with the people that have are in the niche. Find the email lists. So subscribe to email lists that your niche would subscribe to. All of these different things can be used. Cool. Podcast episodes. There's probably like 45 of them. Maybe there's only 5. Maybe there's no podcast in your niche. That's fine. But find the podcasts that are the biggest and just make a note to listen to every single episode with your dictionary and your notes open. YouTube videos, find all the YouTube videos that this niche would watch. And trust me, they exist. Even if you might have to look real hard, because some of these videos might only have 50 views, but they're still infinitely valuable to your understanding of your niche and your avatar. Big blog posts, find the blog posts that they would read. Miscellaneous, so anything else, any other pieces of content or information, like tweet storms or anything, this content exists. There are probably in your niche, I don't know, hundreds, probably thousands of pieces of content that you consume if you just know where to look. Because if you think about your life, you're in a niche, like make money online niche, or, start an agency niche, or start a consulting business niche. You know where to find the content. It exists. It's just because it's you and you know where it is. You know what to look for. So you need to be, getting yourself into the shoes of your niche to really figure this one out. So use your brain to find as much content as possible, literally everything. Consume all of it, You want to develop a total borderline unhealthy obsession with your niche and consume everything. So this is step 3, is to immerse yourself in the content machine that these people would immerse themselves in. I know it seems so trivial. It's like, wait, I'm Charlie, this is training on how to build a business. You're just telling me to listen to podcasts? Yes. Remember guys, remember this thing that I showed you? It's not here anymore. Remember the avatar that I showed you? I've consumed every single piece of content in this niche ever. It's so important. If you want to build something that is that devastating and powerful, you've got to do this. So step 4 is immersive outreach. So the thing is you can do as much engaging as you want on these social platforms. You can watch as many YouTube videos as you want. You can watch as many podcasts as you want. You can create Facebook profiles and join Reddit communities and hop into Discord groups, or join WhatsApp communities or Telegram groups, or go on Twitter. But the real nuts and bolts of this research is going to come from you talking to your niche. And so step 4 is immersive outreach. And so what we want to actually do is start getting on the phone with these people. We want to start actually sort of getting to the bottom of this thing and interviewing them. Trust me, I know you might want to be a keyboard warrior and just sit behind your screen all safe and sound, but I hate to break it to you, but to make money, you're going to have to talk to people eventually anyway. So you might as well start doing it now. And, in a month or 2 from now, you're going to start taking sales calls, maybe even a couple of weeks. You're going to start booking sales calls. You're going to start trying to convince these people to buy things. And if you haven't got the balls to reach out to them and interview them, to learn about them, then how the hell are you going to find the balls to do sales calls with them? It's just not going to work. So, you need to start reaching out to this niche. And here's how. So step 4.1, decide how you're going to contact your niche. So are you going to call them, email them, or social DM them? So, we need to find a way of reaching out to them. And really there's only 3 ways to do that. So calling will work the best if you can get their phone numbers. So if you can find the phone numbers in your niche quite easily, then that's what you should do. But if you can't find their phone numbers, then you can find their emails. And if you can't find their emails, then you can send them messages on social media. And if you want to find their email, you can use a tool called hunter.io or snov.io. So I'm going to put this here. You can use these tools, and if you're not sure how to use these tools, then you can just look up a tutorial on YouTube if you need to find their emails, okay? So once you've decided how you're going to contact them, you want to call, email, or DM your niche asking for a 15 to 30 minute interview with them. So what we're doing here is we're reaching out to these people in the niche and we're saying, hey, I would like to talk to you and interview you, pretty much. You just state your intention. And so what you're doing is you're introducing yourself, you're giving the reason as to why you're calling them or contacting them, and then you're requesting to interview them anonymously for as much time as they can spare. So when you're making this request, it's really this simple. We're not creating this long, elaborate lie or this long, crazy thing. We're just saying, we're calling them up and saying, hey, is that Jonathan at X and X Tree Surgeons? Oh, awesome, Jonathan, look, my name's Charlie Morgan, and I'm doing a research project on tree surgeons in the United States. I know you're really busy, but I was wondering if there's any chance you could spare me maybe 10 minutes at some point today or tomorrow, just so I can ask you a couple of questions about life as a tree surgeon. That's it. That's the script, right? Nothing fancy. People are either going to say yes or no, and that's it. So when you ask, you keep it short. So we're not sending an email that has 5 paragraphs, just really short and sweet. If you're calling them, it shouldn't take you more than 20 to 30 seconds to explain. Okay? And we're just going to show genuine interests and true gratitude for their time. So if Jonathan's like, oh, I can give you 5 minutes now, I'd be like, John, I am so grateful for that. Thank you so much. I promise it only take 5 minutes. I've got no agenda, nothing to sell you. Thank you very much, right? And it's also important that you tell them their answers will stay anonymous and won't be used anywhere. So that's it. Now, if you're wondering what reason to give for the interview, then I've got a few here that you can use. Because here's the thing. You're going to make this request, but there's something in psychology called the reason-respecting tendency, which is basically where the word because is very persuasive and it convinces people to do things all the time. Because if I called you up and said, hey, I'd like to interview you, you'd be like, what? The first thing you'd ask is why. But if you bypass that and you give the reason and there's no reason for them to ask why, then they're more likely to actually agree to it. So, hey, Jonathan, I'd like to talk to you about life as a tree surgeon because I'm gathering data for a PhD study on tree surgeons, right? Or like, hey, Jonathan, I know you have no idea who I am, but I'm researching for a book on how to start tree surgeon businesses for an author, a friend of mine. And I'd love to ask you a couple of questions about your life as a tree surgeon and how things are going. Could you spare me a couple of minutes next week or today or now to do that, right? Or I'm doing a survey for an organization in the space. Or I've got a school project and I'm doing my project on, I don't know, yoga teachers because my mum's a yoga teacher. So I'd like to ask you some questions about what it's like to be a yoga teacher for my school project. Or, hey John, or hey Sarah, whatever, like I want to become a yoga teacher and I'm looking to start a yoga business. And I was wondering if you could answer a few questions to help me with that. Would that be okay? Like you just people aren't going to say no to this. Like, imagine that you are imagine you own a steakhouse, right? And someone calls you up at like 4 p.m. You're not doing anything. And they're like, hey Ben, do you own this steakhouse? And Ben's like, yeah, I do. And you're like, look, man, I'm based out of London, and I could just really use your help. Like, I want to start my own steakhouse, but I'm not really sure where to start. And I was wondering if I could ask you a couple of questions around what it's like to actually run one. I don't suppose you'd be able to help. The dude's going to be like, of course. Like, people want to be heard. Like, people want to be heard. They want to be listened to. And not everyone's going to say yes to this. Most people will say no. But all you need is 30 people to say yes over the course of 2 months. And then you really know your niche. You can say, I'm starting a business in this space. You could say, oh, John, I'm about to undergo an apprenticeship in a nearby steakhouse. And before I do, I just want to really get it right. So I'm just wondering if you can answer a few questions around what it's like to run a steakhouse. Or, and this is a really good one, I'm helping my grandmother with her research project on XXX. So, God, that sentence came out wrong, didn't it? Hopefully your grandmother would not be starting an XXX research project, but you get my point, right? So let's say that you decide to go into the cotton clothing sustainability niche. You call up or you email and you say, you find the name of the owner, or maybe you don't. You just say, hey, is that the person that owns Cotton Clothing Company Limited? They're like, yep. They're like, okay, well look, my grandmother's doing a research project on cotton clothing businesses and sustainability and running a business in that space. And she's asked me to call a few people to ask some questions and do some research. I don't suppose you could give me a minute, or I don't suppose you could help me out and answer some questions, and then you just schedule the call. So either you do the call now and you say, okay, well, it will take about 15 minutes, because you need to tell them how long it's going to take. This is very, very, very important, okay? Don't just start asking them questions, because then they're going to freak out, because they might be like, shit, I could be here for 2 hours. You make sure you say to them, look, this could be a 15-minute call, 30 minutes, just as much time as you can give me. And then, you can get into the questions there and then. Or they'll say, yeah, I'm busy right now, but call me back at 4 o'clock. You say, okay, cool, it'll be about 15 minutes. Is that okay? And then they'll be like, sure. Now, obviously, this is all a lie, but, making an omelette, you've got to break a few eggs. You can be honest if you want and say, look, I'm starting a business like this one. I'm going to start a business that helps cotton clothing customers. I want to start a business in the cotton clothing niche, but I'm not sure where to start, and I just want to get some advice from people. These are the words you use, by the way. The imperative word is, I need your help. I need advice. I need guidance. by doing this, you bypass their ego, and they will like, oh, this person's come to me for advice. Like, they want my help. Like, that never happens to people. And they will jump on the opportunity to do that because it's an ego thing, right? So you ask for advice, you ask for help, I'm going to put here, advice, /help, /guidance, etc. Or you can even use the word mentorship. These words will really help. So the structure is like this. I've kind of given you the script. So like, hey, Joanna, I'm Charlie. Look, the reason I'm calling you is my grandparents, they're doing a survey, or they're doing some research for a new book they're writing specifically on yoga and being a yoga teacher. And because of this, they've asked me to interview some random yoga teachers just to get some information. I saw your website and I saw that you've got this awesome yoga business. And I was wondering if I could get some guidance or some advice from you on, how it works. I just love to learn a little bit more about this space. It will be completely anonymous. And we don't have to talk about anything you're not comfortable about. But I was wondering if you might be down for that, if we could have a little call, maybe now or maybe in the future, near future. I mean, you can say no. I just wanted to ask. If you do it like that, like, you're going to get people saying yes all the time, So the other thing here is we're not using our alias here, right? Because obviously they're talking to you. So for email, you just send a text email. If you're doing DMs, send a video selfie. So don't send if you're doing a DM, like sending someone a Facebook DM or something, that you're adding them as a friend and DMing them, send a video selfie, like, as in like you're recording yourself. If it's a phone call, just make it short and sweet. Stress you're not there to sell them anything. Hell, you can try WhatsApp numbers if you can get their WhatsApp numbers. If I were you, I'd do all three. So you want to aim to set up a Zoom meeting for now, tomorrow, or the day after. And if they say, oh, we'll do it tomorrow, then you just say, hey, okay, cool. Can I get your email? And I'll just send you an invitation. And then, you just go on Google Calendar and then invite them. And, if they ask, like, what's the study? Who's the author? What's the school? What's the book? Then you can always just say that you're under a non-disclosure agreement. So like, if you call them up and say, hey, like, I'm doing this research for a new book in the yoga space or in the tree surgeon space. If they say, oh, who's the author or what's the book? You say, honestly, I wish I could tell you, but because it's not out yet, I'm under a non-disclosure agreement. So yeah, I'm sorry, but I can't say, and then they'll either say, oh, fuck off, or, oh, that's fine. It doesn't matter either way. Yeah. Now, if you want, or if you can offer them money in exchange for their time. This will get it done way faster. But honestly, like, the mentorship, guidance, help, advice card, which is really what you're looking for anyway, is probably going to work almost better than just giving someone like $20 for 30 minutes. Okay? Pretty simple. Now, the other thing as well is, like, if you know where these people hang out, you can go see them in person. So, like, if you know that there's like an office, like, you go and sit down with them in person. Like, if you know that there's like a conference coming up on like tree surgeons in like an hour's drive, then go. There's like 1,000 people there. Go on. If you're in the bodybuilding niche and you know that, like, there's a massive bodybuilding, show on in next week, then go, and talk to them and ask them questions. Now, step 5 is actually conducting these research calls. So your mission is to conduct at least 45 to 30 minute long research calls. Now, I know that obviously, we've said that these calls are going to be 15 minutes long, but probably they're going to be 30 minutes. If you ask people about their problems and what they want and their life, and you listen and you show gratitude and you show interest and you show humility, they will talk for hours. Even if you've just said 15 minutes, like, if you get someone on the phone, they'll just go on and on and on, right? So calls will often run longer than the initial time you said. Do not worry about this. So really, we're saying 15 minutes, but if they keep on talking, we're not going to stop them, right? So once you've done 30, and it has to be 30 minimum, okay? So I'm just highlighting this in black. 30 is the minimum amount of calls before you can really understand your niche. So once you've done 30, you can say, yeah, I kind of get this niche now. Now, it might take you 60 to 90 days to do this. You want to keep working through the program regardless. So basically, I'm going to give you a 60-day program for niche research. And that's like, that's the next 2 months of your life. So you're going to be doing this every day for the next 2 months. You can do it for 90 days if you want to, and I would recommend that. but you want to keep going until you've done at least 30 calls. And so if for example you do 30 calls in the first week, then you don't need to do it for 60 days. You just want to do at least 30 or at least 60 days, however long it takes. And you want to host meetings on Zoom with your camera on, and you want to show on the Zoom meeting that you're listening, you're taking notes. Like, it's not hard to get people to tell you things. You just need to actually be interested in them and show genuine interest. And so in the nature of obviously this program being ridiculously detailed and leaving no stone unturned so you can't make any mistakes, I've actually made you a niche research call script. I've also gone to the liberty of making you a notes template. So you can use this template here to make a note of all the calls you do. And on these calls, all we're going to be asking people about is their goals, which is what they want, and their problems. Because if we know their goal and what they want, and we know what problem is stopping them from achieving that goal, now we can reverse engineer the answers to find out what's painful and like what would be worth offering them. Because when we're creating an offer and a solution, all we're doing is helping them achieve a goal and a desired outcome. So if we understand the desired outcome and the goal and the dream, and then we understand the obstacle or the problem that's stopping them from getting there, then we know that if we solve this problem, the goal will happen. And remember, money is made when value is created. Value is created when pain is alleviated. Pain is alleviated when problems are solved. And so if we know the problem and we know the goal, then we can make a ton of money, right? So obviously when you're doing the research calls, you can print this out or make a copy and type as you go. You put their name, the date, and the source. So how did you find them? What date is it that you're doing the interview? And what's their name, right? Pretty simple, okay? Now, here's the script. So the thing about this script is it's a little bit intrusive. So some of these questions you might feel a little bit uncomfortable asking, and you're welcome to hedge them slightly when you're doing the script. You'll know what I mean in a second here. So let's get into this. Okay. So you want to reword the script and the questions so they feel more natural and comfortable. So calls will run for 30 to 45 minutes. Obviously, they're going to be expecting 15 minutes, and you don't want to overrun. So you want to respect their time. If they only have 15 minutes, then just go 15 minutes, right? But usually when people are properly listened to, they'll rant on forever without any consideration of time. And don't be shy, ask as many questions as you can. So the first step to the script is to set the agenda. So, hey John, how are you doing today? And then the first thing we do is we ingratiate ourselves to them. We say, thank you so much for your time. I'm so grateful and excited to be talking with you. Just positive reinforcement. Thank you so much. And then, okay, so I've got a list of questions I want to run through today. Mainly, I want to explore the goals and dreams associated with being a insert niche word here, in the insert niche word here market. So, obviously if they're binge eaters, you're going to reword this because, if someone's like, if you help people overcome like the trauma of a car crash, then you're not going to say, I want to explore the goals and dreams associated with being a car crash victim. That's just a little bit inappropriate. So you need to change this around, but you could say it instead like, mainly I want to understand what it's like to be what you've been through, whatever. And I also want to know the day-to-day problems, struggles, and obstacles associated with this. All of your answers will remain totally anonymous. Does that sound okay? And then you ask them if they're comfortable with you recording this call. Now, whether you record the call or not depends on your niche. If people are going to be opening up to you about deep emotional stuff, like that really cuts close to the bone, I wouldn't record the call because they're going to be less comfortable sharing the information. But if it's business, they should be fine with it. But they might not want you to record the call. So you ask for permission, and if they're happy, then obviously you record it. So step 2 is the warm-up. So really, this is just warming them up. Okay, so tell me how long you've been in this niche. Or can you briefly tell me your story from A to Z, from A to Z, about becoming a thing. Right? So can you briefly tell me your story from A to Z about becoming a dentist? People love this stuff, man. They love to be listened to. So you ask them for their story and you ask them how long they've been in this niche. Step 3 is find goal, dream, desire, want, need. So the whole point of these interviews is to figure out what people want and what's stopping them from getting it. Because if we can figure out what they want and what's stopping them from getting it, then we can reverse engineer to find out where we can alleviate pain and create value and make money. Remember, like I said earlier, it all hinges on this phrase of money is made when value is created. And if we want to create value, we have to alleviate pain. And if we want to alleviate pain, we have to solve a problem. And if we want to solve a problem, we have to find out what people want so we can figure out like what we need to give them, right? So you're going to ask them these questions. So what do you want with your XXX, right? So like if they're in the tree surgeon niche, you'd say, okay, so what do you want with this tree surgeon business? Like, why does it exist? What are you trying to achieve here? Or if your niche is people who play the piano professionally, it's like, what do you want with your piano career? You know, what are you aiming for right now? We always want to tie the niche in, because remember, this person might be in multiple niches. They could be a professional piano player, but then they could also be like a amateur chef. And so it's very important that we centralize our questions around the niche and their role within it. What is your goal right now for your thing, for your niche, for the thing that you're doing? What does the ideal future look like for you in your XXX? Regarding this, what hopes, dreams, and aspirations do you have? Why did you get into this? What did you want to do? Why did you want to do it for? What would your dream day in the life look like regarding this? How does that compare to a day in the life right now? So what we're doing with these first questions is like, what do you want? But we're asking the same question in a bunch of different ways so that we can get, a bunch of different answers and collate them together and find a pattern. And doing this for one person doesn't have much power, but doing it for 30, like if you talk to like 30 people and like 27 of them all say the same thing, now you know what the niche wants. You can, if you understand what 30 people want and they all look similar, you can understand what 300,000 people want. It's fractal. It's pattern based. So once you find out what they want, now we find the problem. It's really important. So what would you change about this given the chance? If you could wave a wand and totally fix a problem with your blank, what would it be? So, if you could wave a wand and totally fix a problem related to your piano career, what would it be? What are the obstacles you face on a day-to-day basis regarding this? What are the main problems you face with being this? What is stopping you from achieving this goal? So you should at this point know what the goal is, right? So you know what the dream and the desire is. It should be pretty clear. So now it's like, okay, so I know that you want this. What's stopping you from doing it? What's holding you back from doing this? What don't you like about this? What do you like about this, right? What annoys you about this? What frustrates you about this? And what do you have to do that you wish you didn't have to do with this? Is there anything about being this that you wish you didn't have to deal with? If so, so what? Right? If so, what? So what's the problem? Like, what do you hate? Why can't you get what you want? What would you change if you could? Use your brain. Some of these questions aren't going to be appropriate for all niches. It's not appropriate to ask a binge eater what they like about being a binge eater, right? For example. Pretty straightforward. Step 5, end the call. So just end the call however feels comfortable. Tell them it's all anonymous. And then also invite them to your free school group. Be like, oh, by the way, part of this project or part of this thing, I've also created a free community that I'm going to try and build. There won't be anything in there to like sell you anything, but I'm just going to try and get a bunch of people like you in a community so we can all talk and have fun. Do you want to join it? They'll be like, yeah, sure. And then you just join them. And this is why if you do 30 of these calls, you should get 30 people in your community. And now you've got like a pretty good understanding of your niche. So the other thing you want to learn to do is extend and Socratically reason. I'm also going to put down here positive reinforcement. So extenders, tell me more about that. Interesting. Could you expand on that for me? What do you mean by that? Why do you think that is? So whenever people are answering these questions, first of all, like when they give you the answer, leave a second or two of silence after their answer and then try and get them to extend it. So if you ask them, for example, what would you change about being a tree surgeon given the chance? And they say, oh my God, the apprentices. You'd be like, okay, tell me more about that. They'd be like, oh, well, it's just, these apprentices are like, they drive me insane. I completely hear you. Thank you for telling me that. Could you expand on that for me? Why do they drive you insane? Why is that? What do you mean? We need to like pull these questions and these answers apart and get as deep as we can. And then Socratic reasoning is basically just asking why. So, I don't like apprentices. Why? Oh, because they annoy me. Why? Oh, because like they do this. Why do they do that? Oh, because of this. Really get to the bottom. Like, you don't want to piss people off. If you ask why too much, they'll just think you're weird or socially inept. But you want to try and get to the bottom of things and the core of things by asking why as much as possible. Now, positively reinforcing answers is pretty straightforward. This is just using words like, thank you so much, like, that's great, awesome answer, etc., etc. But when people are giving you the answers that you want to hear, if you want them to do it more often, then just tell them they're doing a good job. Obviously, we're not going to, patronize these people, condescend them. But if someone tells you something that's really important, you can do thank you so much for that. That really makes things so clear for me. I'm really grateful that you said that. Then they'll just keep going. They'll keep on telling you more and more. So this is how you interview people. These are the questions to ask. Shouldn't take more than 30 minutes per call. You want to extend, get to the bottom of things, and reinforce the answers that they do give you. Okay? And that's how you conduct it. And by the way, this is literally what I did. Like, I haven't just theory crafted this into the universe. This is exactly how I built my avatars for all my businesses and the current business that I have. It's made me $25-30 million, literally, right? So the next thing to do is store all your notes in a Google Drive folder in date order, accessible at any time. So all of these research call note templates you'll have one of these for each calls you've done. And you want to label this. So you would put like 5th September, like this, and then create a Google Drive and then keep them all inside of a folder so they're accessible at a moment's notice so that you can open them up and reread them whenever you want. And this is what we're going to use, by the way, when we come to create sales scripts. We're going to use this when we come to create appointment booking stuff. Like, everything that happens downstream, all the stuff we do will be based on this. So if you fuck this up, then you're not going to be successful. Okay? So organize it, store it, pretty straightforward, and that's that. So here's a step summary. So like I said, there's 5 steps. So step number 1 is obviously this immersive community that we have with school that you should create. And I know it costs a little bit of money, but trust me, like, $100 a month to understand your niche on a molecular level. I mean, that sounds like a pretty good bargain to me. Step 2 is obviously immersing yourself in the internet, in their world, with the algorithms, with your Chrome profile and the social profiles and this, that, and the other. Step 3 is immersive content. So, we're immersing ourselves. We're basically finding every piece of content relevant to this niche and doing it. And then immersive outreach, and then conducting research calls. We've got the script and the template here. Okay? If you do this properly, consistently, you will know your niche better than they know themselves, probably within a couple of months. And then everything that you do in your business is going to be easy. Like, everything. Every day, every hour you spend here makes everything in the business so much easier. So do it. So what I've done is given you the strategy now. But to execute this strategy, we need a daily process, time, volume, and more. So what I've done is I've created the daily immersion protocol and the 60-day niche research program. So what you can do is, this is a daily activity. So what you're going to do, and I'm telling you to do this, and you should do this, and if you don't, then your loss. You need to block out 2 hours a day, 7 days a week for the next 30 days. So what I want you to do is I want you to go into your calendar, in Google Calendar, right? Or any calendar that you use, and I want you to block 2 hours. You can set the event to recur and repeat, and I want you to block out 2 hours a day, Monday through Sunday for the next 2 months. So it should be there on your calendar at the same time every day. Probably ideally do this in the evening when you finish your work. So, between 6 and 8 p.m. or, 7 and 9 p.m. or whatever, every day, 2 hours a day, 7 days a week, next 60 days. You're going to make this a habit. You're going to make it a routine. And the protocol is very straightforward. So every day for 2 hours, you're going to spend 1 hour consuming content or engaging on your socials. So you're going to be scrolling. This is the only time I'm going to tell you to scroll through like Instagram or TikTok or Facebook. Like, usually I would say do not do this, but you're going to spend 1 hour doing content consumption, on these socials or listening to podcasts or whatever. You're going to do 30 minutes a day doing outreach. So you're going to be doing a minimum of 30 outreaches per day. So calls, emails, DMs. You're going to contact at least 30 people. And if you do this every day, you should get at least 1 interview a day, which will take you 30 minutes. So all told, Every day for the next 2 months, this should take you 2 hours a day. Now, if you want to accelerate the process, become more successful as fast as possible, do as much of this as you can. But here's the kicker. This research and this immersion protocol, you need to do in conjunction with the rest of the program. So we're not going to pause the program now whilst you do 2 hours of research a day. That's not what we're going to do at all. Now, if you want, what you could do instead, because if we think about this, this is 120 hours of work, right? So if you wanted to instead, for the next 12 days, you could do 10 hours of research a day and then come back to the program. But for the sake of your sanity and also keeping things moving, I'm going to recommend you do this 2 hours a day for the next 60 days. You're going to continue to work through the program so we can start building on this, knowledge. We're going to continue working on your mindset, your expertise, your sales skills. And then by the time that you've finished the program and are ready to start getting clients, your research protocol should almost be up. Or maybe in a month or so, you really understand the niche way better, right? So action item. So block out 2 hours a day in your calendar and sacrifice whatever you have to, right? So I don't care if, between 6 and 8 p.m. in the evening, that's usually when I play Minecraft. Or between 6 and 8 p.m., that's when I go and do Muay Thai. Tough, right? Do you want this or not? If you can't be fucked to block out 2 hours a day and sacrifice something, what matters more to you? Your Muay Thai and your Minecraft time, or your future financial success and the financial freedom of your wife and children in the future, or husband and children, right? Come on. So pick a 2 hour window and stick to it. You can do more than 2 hours if you have the time, and if you do, you should. So I would, honestly, if this is me, I would probably try and do 4 hours a day. But you have to also balance this with the rest of the program and the rest of your life. So bear in mind, you will still be going through the program as you do this. So if you cannot keep this consistent for 60 to 90 days, well, let's put 60. If you can't do this for 60 days, I have some grave news for you. How the hell are you going to manage a business that makes 100K or $1 million a year? This is child's play. So if you can't pick up the phone or find some emails and just message people and scroll through social media and listen to YouTube videos every day for 60 days, you're not cut out for this business thing. And I know that sounds harsh, but truthfully, if you're like, oh, but it's Sunday, I don't want to do work on Sunday. How that dude, you want to manage a business that does $1 million a year eventually, or 100K a year. Doctors have to train for 7 years and then have a 10-year career before they get even close to making that. You can do it in 6 months, but you can't be bothered to send some emails and make some phone calls and ask some difficult questions on interviews. Dude, it's going to get way harder than this. I've got some news for you. This is the easiest thing that I'm going to ask you to do by far. So start this today, start it this evening, start it now, and track your progress using this. So I've got a spreadsheet for you that you can go and make a copy of, and I should actually probably grab you this link because you're going to need to do this. So if I just put this here, make a copy, and we'll just link this up for you. I need to link this. Okay. All right. So you get the point. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Okay. Make it in blue. You can do this in your own time. It doesn't really matter. Anyway, so now that you've done this, and now that you understand, I just need to click this for this. I want to make sure you can get this properly. Just bear with me. Okay. So now that you get this, so every day, day one today, 30 outreaches, consume 1 hour of content or the socials. And did you conduct an interview or not? Now, you might not have an interview every day, so that doesn't matter so much. Maybe it looks like this, where you do a bunch, then you don't have many. That's fine. As long as you do 30, that's all that matters. But what you should be doing every day is the outreach and the consumption to actually understand your niche, right? So that's the daily immersion protocol. And that's how we're going to immerse ourselves in the business and basically develop this strategy to become more successful. So if you hit 30 interviews before day 60, just keep going. You can stop if you want, but I would keep going. Now, a couple of things. do not use this as an excuse to procrastinate for the rest of the program. So, we're going to keep moving through the program. We're going to get some mindset training, the expertise training. We're going to learn to sell. What I don't want you to do for the next 60 days is just be like, oh yeah, I'm just going to do this research for 2 hours a day. Like, I'm working on my business. Like, no, we're not going to do that. That's not what we do here, right? We're not procrastinators. Also, just do it for 2 hours a day and crack on. So some of you are going to be saying, I don't have the time to do that with my 9 to 5 or my college work. Well, you're going to have to sacrifice some stuff. So if you've got a 9 to 5, right? Or you've got like university or something, well, let's say that this takes you 8 hours a day. So you're sleeping for 8 hours, which you should, and you're working for 8 hours, which means that there's 8 hours left over to do research in this program. I told you this is going to be hard work, right? If you're not willing to spend every single spare minute, an hour that you have on this business, then you might as well just leave, because you're never going to be successful. Like, this is really where the men are going to be separated from the boys, and the women are going to be separated from the girls here, because like, if you're looking at this thinking, God, 2 hours a day, I don't know if I can, I don't want to like God, that means I can't go to do my knitting class, or I'm going to have to stop doing that then. I don't want to do that. This will show you how much you actually want to do it. And if I'm telling you now, like, the train's about to leave, and if you don't get on it, you're done for. If you can't be bothered to do this, you might as well just leave this program now. And I know that sounds harsh, and I don't want it to come across as harsh, and I want to encourage you, and I want to see you succeed, and I want to see you win, but it's going to get, like, we're going down a bloody dangerous, scary path. If you can't even take the first step, you have no business being with us. I want you to come, I do, but if you can't be bothered to sacrifice something to do this, then sorry, but you're not going to make it. To give you some context, this is what I did for the first year. So when I was starting my business, I had an apprenticeship. I had a 9 to 5. So I would get up at 5:30 to go to the gym because I wanted to take care of my health. At 6:30, I'd get back from the gym, get ready for work and drive to work. And then from 7 a.m. to 9:30 a.m., I would make cold calls and work on my business. So I found 2.5 hours in the morning to work on my business. Then I would work from 9:30 to 1. Then at 1, on my lunch break, I would go and buy, in the UK, you can buy these things called meal deals, which is just like this, sandwich and drinks and stuff that you can buy for like £3 or £3.50 now. Inflation gone mad if you ask me. But anyway, I'd eat a meal deal in record time. Like, I'd do this in like 5 minutes. Then I'd spend an hour on my lunch break in my car, away from my work in a lay-by, making more cold calls or working on my business or doing niche research. Then I'd work again on my 9 to 5, drive home, and then between 6 p.m. and 8:30 p.m., I would make more cold calls and work on my business again. So then I'd eat dinner and I'd wind down. Like an hour before bed, I would just like stare at a wall or play Call of Duty. I found 6 hours a day to get my business off the ground. Stop making excuses. Like, the only reason I'm being harsh here and telling you that it's possible and that you have to make sacrifices and being quite cold is because this is what I did myself. So I'm just holding you to the same standard that I held myself to, which is really what a mentor should do. Okay? So you're going to have to get rid of some stuff. You're going to have to make some sacrifices. But if you can't do 2 hours of research a day, I mean, my God, if you can't do that for 2 months, like, I don't know what to tell you. So the next step is validating the problem and the solution. So the whole point of this research and the whole point of this protocol is to understand the niche well enough to extrapolate a goal and a problem so that we know what to offer people so they can get what they want so we can create value. So for the next 60 days, you're going to be trying to gather niche information. We're obviously going to be using the resources I've given you, et cetera, But after 7 to 14 days, a clear set of problems should emerge. So usually, once you've done 10 interviews and 10 hours of research, you're going to start to notice like a real pattern where like, okay, this problem really seems to be quite prevalent. So after a week or two, you should have a list of between 3 and 10 problems that continuously pop up on your interviews and in your content consumption or social research. So what you want to do is make a list of all the problems and run them through this simple validation technique. So what I've done here is I've created this resource called problem and solution validation. And so what we want to do here is we want to ask the market what their problem is, basically, and find out, like, the easiest way to find a problem is ask them what they want and then ask them why they're not there. And then it will reveal the problem and the obstacle. So we need to validate the problem is good. And what I mean by good is this actually worth building a business off of? And we also need to validate the solution as well. And this means like, is the problem solvable? Like, can this actually be solved? Like, is this easily accessed, etc.? So we have this resource called problem and solution validation. So validation basically means that this problem and solution combination is strong enough of a problem and solution to build a business on and achieve financial freedom. So here's the action steps. You're going to have to do these eventually, probably in the next week or two, really, as you start doing interviews. So step one is to list all the problems you found during your interview and research stage. So you want to conduct at least 10 interviews and at least 10 hours of research before doing this. So you're not going to be able to do this right now, but you want to bookmark this and come back to it once problems start to emerge. And so you want to list your discovered problems below. And there should be anywhere between 3 to 10. So, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe you've got 5 of them. Like you've done 10 interviews. All like 9 of these people have told you like there's 4 problems that exist routinely. And on your 10 hours of research, you've watched these YouTube videos and these podcasts, and that people keep saying this problem, these things are problems as well. So list them down. Now, once you've done this, you want to validate each problem with the 3 following criteria, okay? So first of all, you need to know that more than 5 people have talked about this at length. So if the problem is, for example, if your niche is tree surgeons and a random problem they have is finding a good apprentice, like I said, I don't know if it's a problem or not, it's probably not, but let's say it is, like have more than 5 tree surgeons actually ranted on about this being a problem, right? And when people talk about this problem, is there actually pain associated with it, right? So when people are talking about this problem, there is actually pain associated with it. So if it's like, oh, I just need a good apprentice, I don't really care, but like it would be nice to have one. There's no pain there, right? It needs to produce pain. And also this problem keeps jumping out at you during your content or social research. And this problem is an obstacle to a common goal. Okay? So the problem's valid if more than 5 people talk about it at length. If those 5 people or more say that there's a lot of pain associated with it, and also if it keeps jumping out at you during your research on social platforms and content, and also if it's like a blatant obstacle to a common goal, right? So if the tree surgeon's goal is to have someone else run the business for them, and an obstacle for them to do that is to find an apprentice that they can train up, then it's pretty clear that finding a good apprentice is an obstacle to a common goal. And so that problem has validity using this mechanism, right? And then also, you want to ask these questions about each problem that tick all 4 validation boxes. So once you've validated it using these 4 tick boxes here, the problem's valid, but we want to go one step further, right? Do the people in this niche really care about it? And you're going to use your own subjective understanding of the niche now to answer this. Does everyone in this niche suffer with the same problem? Like, is this actually a common problem, or have I just kind of like, am I not really onto anything here? Will they pay thousands of dollars to have this problem solved? Now, this is a difficult question to answer. If it's painful, the answer is almost always yes. But this is the thing, like, do you think people will actually pay for this? Like, would they really, like, if you're working with like knitting coaches, right, for example, and one of the problems that they have is that they're, I don't know, the magazines they knit out of are in black and white, and it annoys them because they want them to be in color. It's like, well, like, would they really pay like $3,000 just to have that in color? Probably not. Do you know what I mean? It's just, you got to use your brain. Is it a big problem? Does it truly keep them up at night? Is this a problem that really causes, is this problem really causing the market serious, genuine pain? So in other words, when people talk about this, is there emotion in their voice? Like, when you're asking these questions and when you're listening to this content and consuming this content, is there like an emotional attachment to this? Like if you're in these interviews and you ask someone about a problem and they get a little bit like passionate about it, and they rant and you can hear the emotion, is it really causing genuine pain / distress? Is this an obstacle getting in the way of their dreams and goals? And is this a groundbreaking problem or just a little nuisance? So is it really like a big old, fuck off massive, God damn it, I wish this thing would go away? Or is it just a little nuisance? Is it a broken leg or is it just a stubbed toe? Now, once you've validated the problem, using this, we want to validate the solution. So this is the thing. A problem can be fantastic and it can be a brilliant problem to solve. You can tick all these boxes, right? You can answer all these questions and you yourself can be passionate and interested about the problem. But the next step is we need to validate the solution. So the thing is we need to make sure that we can actually solve the damn thing, right? So first of all, like the easiest way to validate a solution is there someone in your niche who's actually solved the problem? So this is the thing, like if there's nobody in the world that has solved this problem, then we're not going to try and solve it because we don't know if it's actually possible. Like it probably is, but the thing is when it comes to learning how to solve problems, and I'm going to teach you this in week 3 when we become experts and how to become an expert, like you need to find critical information. And if no one solved this problem, then you haven't got any critical information to find. Like if there's nobody, like if there's no tree surgeons that have good apprentices, then we're not even going to bother trying to solve that problem because where are we going to find the information? You know, we're going to just be guessing and it's going to take too long. So are there people in your niche who have solved this problem? And if you want to know whether this is true or not, this will be demonstrated if there are a minority of people in the niche who have achieved the transformational goal the majority want to achieve, because the minority wouldn't have been able to achieve it if this problem could not be solved. So remember, a problem is an obstacle to a goal. And what that means is that if someone in your niche, even one person in your niche, has successfully achieved the common goal of the niche, that means that in some way, shape or form, they've had to remove that obstacle and solve that problem. And if that's the case, it means the problem is valid. It means the solution is valid. It can be done. And we can find people that have actually done it. If not above, are there people in similar niches who have solved this problem, right? So, you know, let's say that, okay, well, there's nobody in the tree surgeon niche that has found out how to reliably get good apprentices, but what about the home improvement niche? Or what about the gardening niche? You know, once again, guys, I'm not saying that the apprentice, this is probably a terrible idea. I've not validated this. I've not researched it. It's just an idea, right? But you get my point. There are, you know, lateral niches that are parallel to the niche that you're in. They might have solved the problem and you can take that information from that niche into yours. Are there businesses that solve this problem? So are there actually like competitors in your niche or a similar niche that do this thing? Because then you can validate it. It's like being a fish and picking a pond to live in. You might want to pick the pond that's got no fish in it, but how do you know that pond's not toxic? It's probably not safe, right? It's the same thing. You don't want to go into a blue ocean. You want some competition because that competition it's a sign of life, right? And then also the information required to solve the problem is findable. So really remember, how do we solve problems? Well, we find and apply critical information. And what you need to ask yourself is, do you think that you can find the information required? The answer is probably almost always going to be yes, but like you need to know that there is actually a place that you can go to look. Like, is it something you can research and understand? Are you going to be guessing? Like, you know, yeah, that's that. So that's how you validate a solution. So the next step is to pick your problem and solution. So you want to rank the problems that you've discovered. Of course, that's what we've done, is we've just uncovered them basically. You know, we haven't created them. We've just discovered them, right? So we rank the problems according to the validation technique. And then what you want to do now is write down the problem and the solution you're going to pick. So you're just going to put problem here. Now, you're not going to necessarily pick a solution, right? Because we don't know what the solution is going to be yet. But what matters is you need to validate your problem, and obviously we have to validate the solution accordingly to that. So write down the problem here. You know, well, what is it? Put it down, note it. Okay? So deciding solution. So what you've just done, I mean, you won't have done this now, right? Because this is all theory crafting right now, but you're going to go and do this in the next couple of weeks, is you've just picked a foundation. You have picked the initial condition, the trajectory of your entire business. And so the next thing you need to do, once you've picked the problem, is decide what sort of solution you're going to offer. So remember that in consulting, a solution is simply the application of critical information. So don't concern yourself with how. I don't want you to worry about how the hell you're going to solve this problem yet, because I'm going to teach you how to solve this problem and become an expert in solving this problem in week 3. So as we go through the offer training, the rest of this mindset training, you're going to feel a little bit insecure because you're like, I don't even know what the hell I'm doing about this thing. But what matters is that we found it, and you can build yourself around the problem. You cannot build the problem around you. So all you need to do right now is just concern yourself with the outcome and that it is possible to solve. So when we create your offer in the next video, we are going to be creating the offer assuming that you already are an expert and already know how to solve this problem. So in the next video, I'm going to help you create your marketing message. I'm going to help you create your pricing strategy. I'm going to help you create your guarantee. Like all of these things are going to create, and you're going to be like, but I don't even know if I can deliver this thing yet. But I'm not worried about that now, because I'm going to show you how to deliver it and how to become an expert. And what matters is that we meet the market where it is, if that makes sense. So this might seem backwards to you, but we need to get moving. You know, we've got work to do. I can't have you procrastinating and just learning for the next 9 months. Like, I want to get you results quickly. So I'll show you how to deliver and become an expert later. And you're going to become an expert before you start trying to get clients. So don't worry about that. You know, don't worry about like doing sales calls when you don't know what you're talking about. That's not going to happen. But for now, we just need to get moving. So for now, you just need to decide on the model. So are you going to do done for you, right? And done for you is where you execute the critical information for the client. Are you going to do done with you, which is where you and the client communicate together, you know, and execute on the critical information together? It's like a coach. Or are you going to do it yourself, which is where, you know, you give them the information and they do it themselves. So this is the very important difference here. Done with you is one-on-one coaching where you're working with the person. Do it yourself is where you teach them to do it. So done for you is for beginners with no experience in a niche, right? Where they can deliver value by doing the work for clients. Done with you is also for total beginners with no experience in a niche, where they can only deliver value by working with the client one-on-one. And DIY, do it yourself, where you teach people, like I'm doing with you now, is only for people who have already successfully got the result for 15 clients in the niche. So you're probably not going to be in the DIY category. Now, if you've solved the problem for yourself, for example, if you already are a successful property investor, you know, and you want to turn your personal experience and expertise into a product, then you can go straight to DIY. But I'd still probably recommend you do DFY or DWY first, because you can only really create a program and teach people if you are a true expert. And so if you've done it for yourself, then sure, you can go straight to a course and DIY. But if you haven't, it's got to be done for you or done with you. So pick your model. You know, tick the box. Which one are you going to pick? Done for you? Like, you know the problem now. Like, do you think it's going to be easier to solve this problem by doing it for them or doing it with them? And you should know the problem inside out, and you should know which one of these is more appropriate. Okay? So congratulations. Once you've done this, well, I'm congratulating you a little bit early. Like, dude, I'm really proud of you right now, because you're still in the program. You're doing action. You're doing things. You're clicking buttons, you're thinking, you're solving problems, that you're starting to do work. And I'm so happy that you're doing it. And I know that I can be a little bit cruel sometimes and harsh, but I just want to tell you the truth and be honest with you and transparent with how difficult this thing's going to be. It's not going to be easy, but I'm really happy that you've made it this far. I'm really proud of you going through these long videos and doing the work. So well done. Keep it up. And once you've done this, you've now got 3 of the 5 core foundations. So you've selected your niche. Once you've done this, you'll have your problem, and you know, you'll kind of have the solution semi-formed. So in the next video, we're going to create your offer and define the result we want to achieve. So we've got a couple more foundations to sort of build. The solution, you're not really going to be clear on this until you actually get to week 3 and become an expert. But you know, we're halfway there, which is good. So just a final note, it's going to take you a couple of weeks to find the problem, and we will be using this to build the offer. So in the next video, we're going to get into offer and result. Perhaps you already know the niche and think you know what problem you want to solve. You know, don't stop going through the training, and don't think you already know the niche. Like, do this research. Unless you're an absolute expert in this niche, do your research. And don't stop going through the training. So don't use this research as a method of procrastination. You want to watch the offer video next and revisit it once you've validated your problem. So in the next video, I'm going to show you how to create an offer. And I'm going to show you how to create a price and a guarantee, and you're not really going to be able to take any action on it because, well, you don't know what to solve, and you don't, like, the offer is built out of the problem, and the result is built out of the solution. And so until you've got those two things, we can't really do it. But what's important is that you understand how it works, so that when you find the problem and when you find the solution, you can revisit the training, use your understanding of what you've already learned, and then create a really strong offer. Okay? But I just want to keep you moving. I want to keep you moving through the training, okay? And also, one more thing, by the way, just a caveat. So obviously, all of this hinges on you getting interviews and talking to people. If you say, I cannot get any interviews because I cannot find people in my niche, then you've picked a terrible niche. And you need to go back to the video, to the niche video, right? I'm just going to put this in. You need to go back to the niche video. Because if you remember, if you were listening, being able to find this niche online is one of the core components of a good niche. Remember when you picked your niche, we had those dark orange boxes, those check boxes. One of the dark orange check boxes, which confirms that a niche has validity, is being able to actually find the niche online. And if you're trying to get these interviews and suddenly you're like, I don't have any phone numbers, I can't find them on social media, and I cannot find their emails, then you need to go and pick another niche. Because first of all, how the hell are you going to get any sales calls? Like if you can't get any interviews, how are you going to get any sales calls? Like you can't contact them, right? So yeah, that's basically that. So that is everything for total niche immersion. Like I said, I'm really proud of you going through this training so far, sticking out the videos. I can tell you that most people will have given up and quit by now. And I hope I've set your expectations properly for what you need to do. This is imperative and it's so important, just as the rest of these foundational videos are. And let's get to work and let's start finding some problems.